Hmm. Yeah, starting. Yeah.
Like जैसे last time किया था, it was the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, hey.
Hello.
All right, all right. I see a few comments on the chat box that you were not able to hear the music, so I thought might as well get started. But we are going to be keeping the first few minutes slightly slow so that everybody can join in. But I hope all of you are able to hear my voice well and are able to see me well. Drop in a yes. Gagan noted your request. Drop in a yes if my voice is audible and if you are all able to see me well. Amazing, amazing. We have few more people joining in. So what I want all of you to do here, who is on the call, I know that we had a kickoff call yesterday. Many of us already met each other, and many of you who have joined in today might not have attended the kickoff call, but you don't have to worry about it at all because we are getting started with the generative AI mastermind today. And today marks the day one of the mastermind. And it's good to see all of you coming back in. Those of you who have attended the onboarding call yesterday, it's good to see all of you back on cameras today. While we get started, one quick thing that I want all of you to do right now who has already joined the Slack community is to go to your Slack community right now and let all of your other friends know that we are getting started with day one so that they can quickly join back in. We can do a very quick refresher of what we covered yesterday, and then we will jump into today's first session, which is on the foundations of generative AI itself. So can we all quickly open up our Slack channels? Whoever is in Slack, please do open up the Slack channel, go to the C6 community that we showed yesterday, and go ahead and drop a quick message saying the session is starting and everybody is supposed to join in. Those of you who are not a part of Slack yet, you don't have to worry about it right now because we have a lunch break today. During the lunch break, we will help you out. Before that, we will focus completely on the session that we will all be attending very soon. Let me also quickly open up my Slack channel and see what's happening. Okay, let's all go to the C6 updates and support channel and call all of our friends back, letting them know that day one is getting started because we do not want anybody to miss out on anything that is happening here today. All right. Awesome. I see more people joining in now, and this is going to continue for the next 2 minutes. But while that happens, let me quickly get this started. I hope all of you here are joining in from your laptops or desktops, if that is possible. Drop in a yes if you're on a laptop or a desktop. If you're on mobile, I would highly recommend you to drop off and join back in from your laptop or desktop because there is a lot that you're going to be learning. And towards the end of session one itself, there is an app that all of you will be building. I think my voice is clear for majority of the people. Whoever is facing audio issues, you might want to quickly drop off and join back in so that Zoom stabilizes itself and you will be able to hear me well. But with that, let me quickly share my screen and get this started. Give me just a second. Awesome. Once again, officially welcoming all of you to the Generative AI Mastermind at Growth School and welcome all of you to the day one of the mastermind. This is a 2-day event which is going to happen today and tomorrow, and the entire of today is starting now and it will be going on till around 7 p.m. IST in the evening. So that is the stretch that we are going to be doing. We are going to be learning a lot over this course of 8 hours that we are all going to be spending here today, but it all starts with the foundations of generative AI and prompt engineering. And that is what you will all be learning till we break for lunch today. So here's a quick glimpse of everything that will be covered in the first session itself. We will be talking about what artificial intelligence is all about and trying to get an overview of generative AI. We are then going to see some use cases of generative AI and we are going to dive deep into LLM concepts. Now, this is a disclaimer that I want to make for everybody before we even get started with today's session. This particular session or the next 3 hours that all of us are going to be spending in this particular session will essentially set a very strong base and foundation for everything that you will be trying to do with generative AI tools going forward. So everything else that you will be learning in this mastermind and everything else that you will be learning about this evolution as you progress in your life after this mastermind, all of that, the base is this particular session, right? Because we are going to be talking about a lot of concepts that really help in getting the best output of generative AI tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. Now, because of this sole reason, you might, at some point of the session, in case you feel that this is getting too much for you to consume, all that you will have to tell yourself is, in this whole mastermind, it is not possible to get 100% of everything. The idea is for you to get exposed to concepts that are out there so that you can eventually dig deeper into them. And that is the reason why, even if you think that some of the concepts that will be covered here, because this is going to be a theoretical session slightly, even if these concepts are slightly going over your mind, do not worry because we are going to help you out. And then we will get into prompting techniques. We are also going to be seeing OpenAI's playground and what is possible there. And towards the later part of today's session, we are going to be exploring prompting techniques that all of you will be using. Is my internet fine? Are you all able to hear me and see me? Okay, I see a thumbs up from Anil on camera. Okay. All right, all right. I hope that context also is clear about this session. What I want to make it very clear to everybody on the call is that the idea is not to absorb 100% of everything that is going to be covered in this whole mastermind. It is to get an understanding and absorb as much as you can. And the level of absorption that everyone here will be showing will be different because of the diverse backgrounds that everybody has. And hence, the most important thing for you is to stick around, try and learn as much as possible. And one thing that I spoke about yesterday is having a notebook for this mastermind and taking down as many notes as possible. So before I introduce our mentor for the day and kind of get this session itself started, I want those of you who are on camera to quickly show me your notebook if you have it ready, and a pen, because we want you to take down as many notes as possible through this all. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. That really excites me. And now, one last thing that I want to cover before I hand it over to Nivedan, who is already here, is a quick recap of some of the things that we spoke about that you have to hold very close to you for the entire of today and tomorrow. Number one, we spoke about being open-minded to everybody who is coming and teaching you and every learning that is coming your way. Do not let any of your past experiences or learnings block the new learnings that are going to come your way today. And you are not going to have any judgments about anybody at all. Towards the end of today's 3 hour session itself, of the first part of the mastermind today, you will again be doing an activity and you will be collaborating with people. Through the session, a lot of you will want to ask questions, and we want this whole room to be absolutely judgment free so that everybody has that free mind space to be able to ask any question that they are able to think of. Do I have that commitment from everybody on the call? Is that a yes from everybody? Do you all agree that we should keep this space free, safe and judgment free for the next 2 days? Amazing. And that is the way in which all of us are going to help each other get the most of this mastermind. And the third expectation that I have from you all is what I have already said, which is write down as much as possible. And you're also allowed to take screenshots of slides that you think are very important for you or will help you out later. Awesome. We are going to be we are going to be following an average speed so that everybody is able to follow along. But the chat is going to be turned on and off at multiple points of the session. Wherever we want you to really focus on what the mentors are teaching you, we will be turning off the chat so that your focus is on the screen. But we are also going to give you ample time so that you can put down your questions, you can put down your thoughts, and you can communicate with us all throughout. Awesome. Awesome. Now, with that, I hope the ground is set for everybody, and I hope everybody is on the same page. Now, those of you who have questions about the Slack channel, you have not been able to join the kickoff call yesterday. You do not know what the agenda of this whole mastermind is all about. Please keep all of these thoughts aside. We are going to be breaking for lunch at about 2 p.m. IST today, which is about 3.5 hours from now. During the lunch break, we are going to address any technical support that few of you might need because you have not attended the kickoff call yesterday. But for the next 3 hours, we want your undivided attention to be not on technical issues, but on the session itself. Am I clear with that? Drop in the word clear if you agree and you commit and you promise to me that you're not going to think about any technical issue, but only going to focus on learning for the next 3 hours. Amazing. Amazing. With that, I can see that we are all ready to roll. I will now introduce the first mentor that we have for this mastermind. Nivedan comes with a ton of exposure in this space, and he's going to be talking about the science of artificial intelligence itself. Let me quickly find him on the screen and put the spotlight on him and get him. Nivedan, are you able to hear me? You must be able to unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, hi, Fanny. How are you?
Hey, hi. Super excited for this, Nivedan, and thank you so much for joining us for this mastermind.
No, awesome. Thank you so much for getting me here. I see that 632 people have joined in. Wonderful. I see a lot of excitement.
Amazing, folks. One quick thing that we can all get started, because Nivedan has just joined in. Can you all quickly drop in what you do on the chat box? And probably next to that, you can also mention the years of experience that you hold. While we have given Nivedan a sense of the background of the audience that we have in this mastermind, since he's getting started, this is going to be super helpful. And with that, over to you, Nivedan.
No, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm also looking at the chat right now. I see a huge variety. Pratham is a student in grade 8, and there is Sadhan, who is entrepreneur for 10 years, real estate broker. I love the variety of people that we have. What I can promise to everyone here is that we will not complicate anything, and you will still learn everything that you need to. The surprising thing about AI is that it's the least complicated technology that mankind has ever created, right? On one hand, we feel like, wow, this is such a fancy, complex thing that has come out, after internet, after mobile, after these many apps. We think of AI as something very complex. The fact is, AI is literally the most simple technology ever created, and still the most powerful, simply because we can talk to computers the way we talk to humans, right? We have all spoken to humans all our lives. We know how to talk to humans. हमें कोई काम करवाना है, anything that we want to get done, we know how to talk to people. And that's why the simple fact that we can talk to AI, we can give instructions to AI, it's actually the most natural thing to do, instead of going here, clicking here, finding the settings, searching here, then copy pasting certain weird codes here and there. So I think this is where I would like to start with, the fact that we are experiencing the most powerful but the most simple technology that we've ever created, right? So with this, let me share my screen and we'll get started, guys. So just for some context, I come from a background of mix of technology and business and design. I am not a developer. I am not a coder, which is a good thing, because then I can understand and empathize with every one of you here much quicker. And I personally do not, enjoy going into the technical details when it doesn't serve me. So we don't have to know any of the technical details, any coding whatsoever. And that's where the beauty of AI lies. So here we go. Let me share my screen, and just if someone can quickly give me. Gayatri has asked, am I real or am I AI generated? I will answer this question in a while. You will find out, because it's not necessarily obvious anymore. Okay, can everyone see my screen, and should I start from here? Okay, perfect. Let's go then. Okay. So guys, we have spoken about all the, things to be done. Let's make sure we are starting off with all these things that Fani had mentioned earlier, right? Okay. So I want to start with all the things that we're going to cover, right? We will start by having a very simple but effective explanation of what AI is. I'll give you a sense of whatever has happened in the recent years, a little bit of history of AI, because we like to think like somehow, people who are new to it, they think it is something very new. But the fact is, AI has been there for the last 70 years, 70. And we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about some of the popular use cases in AI which have been existing for the last 10, 15 years. We have had AI in everything that we do, in our laptops, in our mobile phones, in our applications. We've had AI, right? But then how is it different from generative AI, and what are LLMs? These are the things we're going to cover after that. Then we'll have a little bit of peek behind the curtain of what is the process of the double quote thought generation. Why is AI so smart, right? What makes it so smart? We'll have a semi-technical view into it and see what are these scientists, these researchers, these mathematicians doing behind the scenes, so that we get such a smart thing happening. Then we have we'll then talk about the prompting techniques. We've all heard about the word prompts, prompt engineering, but we'll talk about prompting from the very basics to advanced. We'll take you on a journey of that in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. We'll cover a lot of examples and the types of prompting techniques there are. And then finally, towards the end of the session, we'll make a simple AI app. Just by writing one or two or three prompts, we will be able to make a very powerful app, simple, but something that really works. And I'm saying this as someone who likes to build apps. I've never coded an app, but I enjoy building apps nowadays a lot just because AI makes it so simple. This is one of my most favorite applications. Okay, so let's get started, guys. Okay, so I think the first thing that we want to understand is AI. The word artificial intelligence, it refers to anything which seems intelligent. Okay, sometimes it happens that the computer seems intelligent, but actually it is nothing but a hard-coded logic. Ki, if this happens, then give me that. If that happens, then give me that. There's sometimes this logic is that if someone clicks here, then this happens, right? If someone zooms in this much, then show them this. All of these are hard coded logic that developers, software developers have been doing for years, right? But what AI says is that when it starts seeming more complex and intelligent, it is anything that is called AI. But within AI, there are multiple sections. We'll talk about them in detail separately. But generative AI, which is what has become popular since the launch of ChatGPT on 30th November 2022, right? We just a week ago, ChatGPT completed 2 years of its existence, right? So in that sense, it is super fresh. 2 years is nothing in the time scale of what the technology we have seen in the last 20, 30 years. But within 2 years, we've reached here, right? The fact is, this is the first kind of AI which can create original type of content like we do. We can type, we can talk, we can draw, we can make videos, we can do photography. All of that humans have been doing, AI or machines can do that for the first time. And all of that is possible because it has learned from billions and billions, probably trillions of text and images and videos that we have created in the history of humanity so far. So it has absorbed everything and it has become capable of generating new things now, which are not a copy of something that exists. Okay. So that is what generative AI is. It's very special. We all know that. And just to give you a sense of, earlier AI was able to do this. You showed it an image of dog, it would tell you it is a dog or a cat or a fish or a giraffe. But now generative AI says, now you can type dog and it can imagine a dog, right? So the reverse can happen for the first time. For many, many years, we've had the first kind, and that is called discriminative AI or classification AI or segmentation AI. But all of that is on one side, and then there is generative AI, which is you type anything, it starts happening. And to the point, it understands dog, it understands pink. Now it can combine these concepts and call it a pink dog, right? This was never possible before. It was very, if you needed to be a phenomenal artist, you needed to do a lot of Photoshop for something to like this to happen, and still it would not be as real. So this is in short what generative AI does. It takes the concepts it understands in text, in images, and generates new concepts, new ideas, new images, new visualizations like this, right? Does this example make it clear of, what does generation mean in the word generative AI? So this is what we're generating, right? Guys, if we have any questions, for example, I know someone has spoken about AGI and ASI. We will address them if we have the time towards the end. Happy to speak about these difficult questions, the dangers and ethics. We can do about all of that, but I think we'll stay focused on today's content. And if we have extra time, we'll talk about that as well. Now, to give you a glimpse of what all has AI being used for, some of these you already know, right? So the fact that your Siri, your Alexa can understand you, this is all natural language processing. We had reasonably smart AI to understand simple instructions. But you try having a proper conversation with Siri and you'll be disappointed, even till date, because Apple has not updated it so well. So all of these assistants that you had, they had AI that was simple kind of AI. Then your Google, Yahoo, Bing, each of these search engines, when you type something in the search box and the results appear, it used to do keyword matching earlier, that if you've written the word dog, it will match the word dog exactly to certain pages. So whichever page would put in more words of dog and abuse the system by putting copy pasting a lot of dog, they would be ranked on top. But then search engines became smarter. How did they become smart? By definition, smart is intelligence. Intelligence is AI in machines. So they deployed AI to understand that when are people abusing it and when should you match exact dog, or even if the spelling is wrong, they can still match with the right kind of pages. That was where AI was used in this. And then whenever you search a destination on Google Maps, it needs to find the most optimum route, which is the fastest and the safest for you. And even doing that, I think that in itself is also using a lot of AI, because by using simple mathematical logic, it is not possible to arrive at so many possibilities of routes. And then finally, very popular already in ads. I think, uh, Funny, can you do me a small favor, by the way? Can we
Yes.
stop the waiting room? Because I think the waiting room thing is appearing on my screen constantly.
Yeah,
Can you?
yeah. So it's a Zoom thing. We cannot disable it completely, but we are continuously admitting people in.
Okay, yeah, because it's appearing on my screen constantly. If we can open it for everyone now, whoever joins, maybe we can do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing is, Zoom does not allow us to close I mean, open up the waiting room completely for
All right,
people.
got it. Usually that option is in host tools, but that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Um, Yes. So in advertising, we've had a lot of, these making ads work and finding which ads work and which ads are failures. There are algorithms which determine what should be the cost per click, what should be the cost per impression, and a lot of that showing like what to show to Nivedan, who is interested in AI, versus let's say what to show to Funny, who's let's say interested in education, right? Both of us will be shown different ads. Now there are billions of people and billions of ads floating around. Which ads to be shown to which people is a very complex task. You can't do make an Excel of it. That is where again AI has been used. So these are all the use cases of AI so far. None of these were capable of generating new text, generating new images, generating new videos, except very simple, very impractical ones most of the times. Okay. So these have been the uses of AI. But the fact is, AI, as I told you, right, it's not new, it's super old. And this is when we got the first chatbot. In 1966, the MIT people made something called Eliza. Have a quick look at this chat. You will see that, yeah, it can give some coherent answers. And imagine the excitement in the lab that, oh, wow, we made the computer talk like us. But the fact is, it was quite hard coded. It wasn't truly intelligent. You threw it a slightly difficult question and it would basically crumble. So this is, but we still had some conversation happening. The people got really excited and they were like, wow, AI is the future. They started painting sci-fi movies and started imagining the future of the cities and so on, right? The imagination of the Terminator also began from from 1950s and 60s, eventually finding itself in popular cinema. But then what happened was, early computers were very basic. They were not very powerful. We did not have powerful chips like we have today. Like our chips in the same size are like tens of billions of times smart, better, you can say. They can do more operations. They can compute and do more challenging things within the same weight and surface area. That wasn't possible. And back then they thought, oh my God, even though AI is possible in mathematical forms, they could imagine it, the mathematicians could, but the technology to support AI wasn't sufficient enough. It was very weak. That is why people gave up on it. And from we had a long AI winter. There was a brief period during 1980s when there was still some resurgence. But for many, like a couple of decades or more, we had an AI winter where very little progress in AI happened, primarily because our computation or the chips or the semiconductors were not strong enough. But then post 2010, right, is when the deal, these companies like DeepMind, which is now got acquired by Google, they took more initiative and many others came in, the top companies, even including, of course, Meta, Microsoft. But mostly DeepMind was the leader in this. They started the deep learning revolution, which is when we started having more advanced use cases, including use cases where people were able to detect tumors and cancers in lungs, in brains, lesions. A friend of mine does that. I also worked on I had my startup which could detect the size, shape, color, defects in any agricultural produce. We could take a photograph and process the image. All of that was possible because of deep learning. No other previous AI techniques was capable of doing like the complexity of deep learning. So this is when the revolution started, and 2019 is when we saw, as we said, the major breakthrough started happening of GPT-1, GPT-2, and eventually in 2022 we had Chat GPT. So this is the entire history. It's not new. We've had a lot of use cases, especially since 2010. We've had a lot of AI being put into many software systems, and now we're talking about the next phase of AI. So far, so good. Now, even for Chat GPT, within 2 years, right, it broke all previous records. And here's a look at how fast it grew. So before this, uh, Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, these guys had the records of hitting the first million users in 150, 75 days. But Chat GPT came in much later than them. By then, internet had penetrated to all corners of the world. So that is also one of the reasons. But then Chat GPT was so powerful and made so much news because of that. Everyone wanted to jump to it. Like, it's so ridiculous. Within 5 days, you had a million people. This is bigger than anything what we could ever imagine. And now this is the stats that we have currently. It is one of the most popular apps on the planet already, right? And this is long before its 2 years got completed. So, if you're still, if any of you are still not using ChatGPT to its full extent, I hope this excites you to say that maybe these many people must be using it for in interesting ways that I haven't learned yet. And in this session, we'll try and cover many of those examples that will encourage you to find your own ways of using this powerful intelligence that you have now. Okay, so here's a quick look into the kinds of AI. So, as I told you, anything that broadly seems like intelligent, even though technically you've hard coded that one that we saw 1966 ELIZA, we can have intelligent machines, even robots in the manufacturing world. They have very basic intelligence, but they're able to do complex things because they're repeated. They have to make the same motion. Go here, pick this, drop here. Go here, pick this, drop here. Even that has some degree of intelligence, but it is basic. But within this, if you have large sums of data which Excel cannot handle, you need specialized machines for it. And from there, you can detect patterns, right? So people who are like Nivedan, what do they search? Let's say it will classify me as an Indian male, 31 years old and a bald guy, right? So what would an Indian male who's bald search for on Google, and what kinds of answers should he get? Could be different from, let's say, an American female, 55 years old and is not bald. So all of that started happening with machine learning. But then they said, okay, when like machine learning started falling short on higher intelligence tasks, it was able to do things at scale, but then deep learning came, and you could now classify these images saying, what this music that you hear, is it rock, is it pop? It could classify that much better than before. Is this image of dog or a giraffe or a cat? This is dog from the side or dog from the front or dog from behind? All of these questions were higher intelligence for computers. That happened due to deep learning. And then finally, we can now not just detect patterns, not just say, okay, this pattern is rock, this pattern is dog. We can now generate patterns of create rock music, create a dog, create a pink dog. That is what generative AI is. This is what they are subsets of each other, right? And within generative AI, we have one of those things is large language models. This is what Chat GPT is, LLMs. You would have seen this word, but it's called large language model because it is literally huge. It has billions of parameters. What are parameters here? Essentially, it's like neurons in our brain. So our brain has billions of neurons which are connected to each other through trillions of connections, right? Uh, in a way, deep learning has replicated the human brain into machine, and it has tried to simulate that brain behavior within the machine. Okay, and that is why it needs billions of these large, sized models, parameters. Now, when you talk about language, it is called LLMs. For image generation, there are diffusion models. So for image also, there are large models. Then for videos, you have separate models. And for audio, you have separate models. All of those are large models. They're called LMs, right? Some of these are, as you can see on the screen, you have multiple kinds of applications, multiple kinds of models. For example, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. GAN stands for Generative Adversarial Networks. But none of these, I'm showing these jargons at this point just so that you have these keywords in your mind. But do not worry, you do not need to understand them, what they are in detail at all. Okay, so this should not scare you. It doesn't matter if you don't belong from a technology background. So far, so good. Guys, quick heads up, and then I know I need to know if people are sleeping, awake, or should we get Funny to do a small little dance for him to wake us up?
No, people, I think they are following. We had turned the chat to host and co-host.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
but yeah, I think it's all going well.
Cool. Okay, wide awake. I've gotten a response. Wide awake. Awesome. So at any point of time, if you think I'm going fast or too slow, please let me know. I'm trying to keep a speed which is good for everyone. But people are demanding Funny's dance. Sorry, Funny, I had to trigger that. Okay. So yes, guys, let's come back to this. Now, a large language model, we've all experienced it already, right? So this is very intuitive. You give it some text, some instruction, and it takes out certain text again, right? So give it some input, gives you an output, both are text. That's what a large language model is. If it was image model, you give it either text or image or whatever, and then it gives you image only. So whatever is the output, that's what the model is named after. But then I'll make it slightly technical here. Okay, so please be patient. It's okay if you don't understand this bit. I will try my best to simplify it as much as I can. Okay. So and before we, of course, before we do that, I want to give you a heads up. We will be using something called Claude. For those of you who are new to it, there's a company which is a competitor of OpenAI called Anthropic, and they have a competitor to ChatGPT called Claude. Okay, and Claude is personally my favorite. It's less popular than ChatGPT right now, but people who have used Claude, they all prefer it over ChatGPT. 90% of the people have used it, and we will use it. It's because it's better for coding. So we will build an app after the end of my session, and it will look something like this. We'll do an AI quiz, we'll test your AI tools knowledge, something like this. We'll make it, and we'll make our own mini little KBC, which works perfectly. And you'll be so happy to see a beautiful little app that you have created with your own hands. And hopefully that excites you to build your own stuff without worrying about being a coder. Okay, so let's get back to how generative AI really works. Okay, so the first step is this. Number one, just to give you a very broad overview, how these companies have made these smart models is by taking in huge quantities of data, trillions of pages that they have scraped online, billions of images that they have downloaded and stored in their servers, and videos and whatnot. They have taken all the audio, they've taken everything. In this case of text, we are going to focus only on text, of course. So all these web pages they've downloaded, whichever is available publicly, whichever data set they had access to legally, and they then put it into this black box of this AI training, something called AI training, and then out comes this model. So we're going to break this black box. So when they have these, thousands and hundreds and thousands of GBs and terabytes of data, all that text is broken into small pieces. Okay, because you need to be able to break into small pieces before you can reassemble them into new kinds of arrangements. So imagine it more like a puzzle, right? We've all played a puzzle. There are certain, there are certain ways certain parts fix into each other. So each of those parts is like a token. Okay, you have broken the puzzle into token. That's what tokenization means. But then in case of text, like the way you have a puzzle in text, like a sentence, here is a sample. We break the sentence into words. But then often there are certain long words and certain special characters, which are even a long word, let's say tokenization, may be stored in two words, token and ization, like in that sense. So depending on the context, there is a certain mathematical logic. We cannot comprehend it in human terms, but in small pieces it breaks, and then it maps the relationship. I'll come to that. So once it is broken into these pieces, it knows that these are pieces of puzzle, and every time we ask it for something, it creates a new puzzle with it, and it creates another puzzle with it, right? So here's another example. You can see that future of fashion is sustainable. Each word is now stored into the system as individual pieces. Okay. After this is stored in individual pieces, then we have to know that what is the meaning, right? Inherently, we know the meaning, but what does a meaning even mean for computer? And interestingly, scientists and mathematicians have figured out a way to represent meaning through numbers. Again, very weird concept, but it is called embedding. Now, whenever we have these puzzle pieces or tokens, you can think of the relationships before, like when you want to create a new puzzle, there is a relationship that a number 2 goes to number 17. They get and fit in together. But before you do that, you want to give them a certain tag so that you can understand which one is which. So each one of them is assigned a number. It's like a label. And then you have something like this, right? Look at it. Like an entire sentence will be broken into words and then saved as this numerical representation, right? Now, in this numerical representation, this entire, it's called a matrix, it's called an array, you can call it that. So what these arrays can be subtracted from each other. So the lower, the closer it is to zero, when you subtract two things, the closer it is to zero, the more related these two words are. So a cat and a dog are related in the sense of an animal, right? But a cat and dog are not related to a tree. So those numbers, when you subtract a cat and dog, it will be closer to zero. But when you subtract it from tree, it will be actually far away from zero, which is how it understands which concepts are similar, which concepts are not. So I'll show you the example, like, a more representation of this, which is like this. Look at this. So the colors represent similar concepts here or similar words here. So these are all the names of countries. Red ones are countries. So countries are supposed to be similar, right? In terms of that, the concept of country, Swaziland, Maldives, these should be together in the mathematical way. But then if you want to have, let's say, purple, suggestion, calling, these are some different words which belong at certain other places. So the more close certain words are, the more they are stored in like this, right? Now this is going to be more technical, so it's okay if this doesn't make full sense. Okay. Sohil, yes, it is similar to clustering. You've asked this question. So yes, it is like clustering. It's called vector embedding. Okay. So we first break everything down into tokens, put it into a vector space, which is like the way we have two-dimensional, three-dimensional. A vector space is n-dimensional. We can have hundreds of thousands of dimensions, which are not possible for us to see visually. Okay. But it is similar to clustering. Yes. I've explained this part already, that the closer these words are, the the more closely they're represented in the system. So in a way, that is how meaning is represented in the computers. But then once you have the meaning, what happens is you need to, in a sentence, you still, all words in sentence are not equal, which is where the new innovation happened. And surprisingly, that innovation was done by Google, right? They released a paper called Attention is All You Need. It's the most iconic paper of humanity in some ways, because after this paper is when generative AI started becoming possible, and it suggested this new mechanism called transformer mechanism. It said that not all parts of a sentence are equal. We need to identify which parts are more important, which parts are less important. And that is why it is called attention. And it is very similar to how you see a spotlight working, right? So on a stage, there are hundreds of elements you see, but only a few things are important. Maybe the character is important. Maybe two characters are important. Maybe a table and two chairs with two people sitting on it. All these things are important. So how does computer know which part to pay more attention to, which part not? This problem was solved in weirdly mathematical ways by the scientists. And here's an example for us to see that when someone says the future of fashion is sustainable, the words the, of, is cannot be the more central pieces of the meaning of the sentence. So in a way, Transformers is able to say that fashion and sustainable, these words are more important. And when you give this as an input to AI, it knows that it has to pay more attention and answer according to the words fashion and sustainable. Okay. So this is what the transformer mechanism does. Okay. Once you have broken down everything into tokens, puzzle pieces, you have labeled them, you have represented them in a meaningful way, in a weirdly mathematical way, in a vector n-dimensional space. And then comes your prediction. Now, finally, it needs to leverage all of that to say, okay, अब किसी user ने पूछा है, if someone user has asked you a question that, hey, what is this, let's say, what is the capital of Italy, right? So it needs to predict the answer Rome somehow. And how it predicts is much similar to chess, actually. It's actually right that there are so many things that are possible in chess. You have to anticipate basis the previous moves, basis the current state of the board, what should be the next move is the logic it uses. In fact, 1997, I don't know how many of you remember this, but 1997 was a huge news of AI or computer beating the world's chess champion Gary Kasparov. That is 1997. Computers are already beaten such an intelligent sport, and people thought now AI is going to take over, but it took us still 20 years almost to have some, or 25 years to have something powerful enough to call that. So this is what prediction looks like. I'll give you one second. Let me show you. Yes, let me show you this perfect example. You have all seen this. Okay, now forget all that I spoke about so far. You want the most simple explanation, guys? This is the most simple explanation you can have here. Okay, give me a second. So when you type something on your phones, you see this, right? There are suggestions that come up. So if you type TY, it will give you 3 suggestions here. Remember that, right? We all use mobiles every day and sometimes suggest the word. Now, on what basis should it suggest the word? Is this. So which word occurs more frequently in the English dictionary or Hindi dictionary? That word should occur more, like it should be suggested on top, right? So the word TYE, it has lost its popularity over the years and nobody uses tie word anymore. So should not appear in the top. So imagine like an Excel where you have different words starting with TY, all the words starting with TY, and in the next column you have all the number of times this word has appeared in all the in the entire literature of novels and newspapers and website articles and so on. So if you see, let's say the word TYE has occurred 10,000 times, but the word type TYPE has occurred 10 million times. So it should suggest us something that is more common. So that is the logic it uses. So it will give us this. It will tell us what is the chances that user is about to type this. So it finds out the biggest probabilities with type. It gives us type. The same logic, if this makes sense, right? The same logic applies when you type Google. You have all seen this. As soon as you start typing, it gives you suggestions, correct? And the suggestions are again based on how many times the world has searched something starting with how. So it's in this example, you will see how many ounces in a cup is on the top, which means more people have searched about it than how to tie a tie at the bottom, right? So more people have searched about this, so it should come at top. Then lesser people have searched about this, and even lesser people must have searched about something else, so they're not visible here. This is what the logic of generating, or making the prediction happen is. Okay. So imagine like at a word level, we saw TYE or TYPE, which one is more frequent, it will suggest that. At a sentence level, this is what it suggests. And now, if you increase this capability by millions and millions of time, make it more complex, put it into a more complex system, which is what the generative AI is. It is now able to produce entire paragraphs, entire articles, entire novels, right? This exact same logic, that what is more likely to occur after this word. Does that make sense, guys? This is basic statistics. This is basic frequency. We don't need to know mathematics for it. बस जो ज्यादा आएगा वो ही ज्यादा suggest होगा. जिसकी probability ज्यादा होगी वो हमें मिलेगा. Does that make sense? Quickly, anyone that you needs that anything that I need to repeat here? But honestly, this is the most simple way to understand AI. You have been using this logic all your life on your computers, on your Google search boxes. This is exactly how AI works. It just predicts much smarter. Okay. Basis the entire training set, it knows how many times some word has occurred and it gives a statistical probability. Yes, Shubham. So this is basic statistics at this point, but of course, at a complex level, you need more advanced statistics. We don't care about that at this point. Okay.
Nivedan, since we have covered a few concepts, do you want to take a 2-minute pause to check if we have questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure. I think we've spoken about the response generation also. I don't want to complicate this bit.
Yeah,
I'll
perfect.
keep it.
After this, we can do the Q&A. Yep.
No, I think I've already covered the response generation, right? So
Hmm.
we've done this. I think we have completed this segment. Done. Okay. So now we'll take a few Q&A, guys, and put in your questions. I see a lot of direct messages you might want to put to everyone since the chat is open, guys. Okay. Pratham is asked, how does the prediction making play out in generative AI? I've already explained, Pratham. The prediction making happens through something which is similar to our brain, a lot of neurons connected. Literally, it's so surprising that the most intelligent technology is being made by modeling humans. Like it is more, the more people make technology, more the surprise by the biology and the surprising nature of our bodies and our brains. That is how it is working in the background, except it happens in a more numerical, mathematical way. Nitin is asking, what is the meaning of meaning for AI? Nitin, this is what I was trying to explain, that once you have different words and different concepts located in this weirdly large space, like the way you have 2D, 3D space, some things are closer, some things are further. For it, the meaning, the way we understand is different, of course, but it understands meaning by relationship between words. That the word, let's say, Nivedan is let's say the sentence Nivedan teaches AI has meaning because Nivedan teaches AI has been coherently seen in the history. So the relationship is stronger. But Nivedan is AI, if you say, then it historically, this kind of sentence doesn't occur. So it knows what is closer to the previous patterns, what is not closer to the previous patterns. And that is how it says this must be more meaningful, this must be less meaningful. Okay. It does not understand the meaning the way we do. Hitin is asking, how does it stay relevant to the topic of interest? Hitin, very simple. The more the kind of input you give, besides the kind of like the fashion and sustainable example that we gave. So it will go around, look at all the words around fashion, which are closer to fashion, and sustainable ke around jo sare words hai, and it will assign those words more importance. As soon as you give those words and meanings more importance and the relationship between them, it automatically becomes relevant and it sticks to the topic. It will not digress because you have forced it to limit itself to certain words and their meanings. Okay, I hope that makes sense.
Nivedan, I think a lot of people are asking for the response generation part of it again. Uh,
Okay,
can we probably cover that bit and then, you know,
sure. Please go ahead.
yeah.
Let me show you. I I think because this will make it again technical a bit, so I skipped this bit. But guys, as I told you, right? Let me actually show you this slide first again. Reminder. Remember this, right? The way we had prediction on word level at sentence level. Now we're talking at paragraph and entire book level, right? So use this is how you see it. This is exactly how you prompt something to the system. It refers to its knowledge base, which is like a library that it has access to. Then it sends you back a response. So now, in this sense, what it does is every time it predicts a new word, it looks at the entire sentence so far and then predicts the new word. So after this new word, it looks at the entire sentence and paragraph and then predicts a new word. This is called an iterative prediction. And that is why, because you need to do this millions and millions of time for generating even a basic few pages. So that is why it is very expensive. It is very heavy on compute. But this is the logic. Probabilities to what is most likely as per my previous data set. That is what it's doing. So, right, just have a quick look at this because I think reading this entire thing would take a lot more time. It's pretty straightforward now. Yeah, so guys, I reminder again, this is slightly technical. It is okay to not understand because this is actually much more technical than it is. For those of you who are finding it fast, I understand it might have been fast for some and it might not be so completely clear. And that is why I'm asking you to redirect your focus on this example as the only thing. You need to know how LLMs work. Look at how only this example of it predicts what's supposed to be next basis the number of times it's seen before. That's it. And that is why AI is not true intelligence. It is not true intelligence. It is similar to intelligence of humans, but it is not the same as human intelligence. Okay, guys?
And folks, one thing that I would just like to clarify is that a lot of it, we will be talking about implementation much later, right? That is, one of the reasons why some of you might feel that a lot of these terminologies are going above your head. But that's fine. The only thing that we expect you to get to know or get out of this session is to understand how each of these models work and what really happens there. So just do not get absorbed into completely all of the jargons that are there. Just try and understand the science of it. That is it.
This is, guys, you were asking for the flowchart. Is this the flowchart you wanted?
I think it's the one before this.
Okay, is it? Okay. The 5-step one. Okay, sure, I can share that. Okay, guys, take a screenshot or anything. If this is the flowchart you want, please take a screenshot. And again, this is meant to be extremely technical. The world is trying to figure this out in terms of the most technically advanced researchers on the top universities. They are working on this. It is meant to be deeply mathematical. And our for what matters to us is to have a broad sense of, and by the way, someone asked this question. This is not the same tokenization as blockchain tokenization. These are two completely independent concepts. Okay. So let's not mix these two ideas. So let me quickly sum it up again. You take up a large amount of data from the entire internet, hundreds of thousands of GBs. You break it down into small pieces of a puzzle. Then you put those pieces of the puzzle into a mathematical format where it knows which ideas are closer, which words are closer, and which words are further. The closer they are, the more related their meaning is. The further they are, the less related their meaning is. And then there is a mathematical way to again focus on the most important parts of every single thing that you say in your text, in your prompt. That focus mechanism is called transformer. Is happening through transformer. This is the big breakthrough that happened through this paper called Attention is All You Need. Once you have all the things listed out, you have broken it down, you've understood their meanings, you have focused on the more important parts. Now you can start generating basis that okay, basis all of this information, what is more likely to occur after this? Which means if you're talking about sustainability in fashion, it will talk about sustainability in fashion related topics, right? The more words you give, the more context you give, the more capable is it of giving you relevant high quality predictions, which is the same as response generation. Okay, that's what it does. Fair enough. Should we move on, guys?
Yeah, I think we can move on now.
Again, do not worry about the technical understanding of it. Is not meant, none of us are meant to understand the technical depth of it, so it's okay if you didn't understand it, right? Cool. Ryan Pereira is asking, what is the difference between ChatGPT and Claude? There is no difference in terms of architecture, Ryan. They are two similar things and they are the same category of things. Just they have applied certain different logics in their training. Their training set is also different. The way they have assigned weightages to, let's say, someone would have given more weightage to the New York Times article, someone would have given more weightages to MIT and Oxford research papers. This way your models can be different, and this way they can respond differently because they were asked to be different. So at this point, guys, I'll give my a little bit of introduction. I know we didn't go through a formal introduction, but here's a quick 1 minute introduction that there is, right? So that is me, and then I am wearing, oh, not I usually wear the same coat. This time I'm different. That's a big difference. But yeah, guys, I have been deeply compelled by the AI revolution that has happened since 2022. I have been restless since then because I can see that it is the biggest force of change in the history of mankind. इससे पहले जो बड़े changes थे, were like fire, electricity, computers, internet, mobile, cloud, ये सब आए थे, बहुत बड़े changes थे. But this one is much bigger because if you think of everything that has happened in the world so far has happened because of human intelligence. Either there is mother nature or there is human intelligence which has the power to shape things. For the first time, we have a parallel intelligence of the kind of AI, which means will be capable of doing so much more. And it is no small deal to have one more parallel intelligence with us. And I care about using it in a smart and responsible way, especially for business applications, so that we can solve the problems on ground. We still have poverty, we still have hunger, we still have a lot of people who need education. So there are so many problems which are unsolved, and I believe that AI in that sense is a gift. It is a gift that will solve some of the hard, challenging problems which are hard to solve before. Now, many of those have become solvable because they have become cheap, or we don't need to hire, so expensive people, let's say, to teach kids in the government schools where you cannot afford too much, right? So I am very, personally compelled by it. I have a vision where I'll be able to help our country and the world in a very meaningful way of adopting AI. This is my prior background. I have been creating educational content on AI for the last 12 to 16 months now, and we've had a lot of success already. For those of you who want to check out, you can check out my Instagram, nivedan.ai. And I've been going to a lot of works. I've taken a lot of workshops, talks. I've been to a lot of countries outside India as well: Singapore, Thailand. We're planning to go to Dubai and USA next. So there is a lot that has happened. I've built an AI startup before, where I told you about the computer vision use case, where we could take a photograph of agriculture produce and give a report to either the company or the farmers, so that no exploitation can happen and we give them a fair price, right? So that is what the kind of things I do. Please do check out and see if you might find something valuable there. But before this also, I've done a couple of startups. I've worked, I've been the business and marketing head at Misho, and it is now one of the largest e-commerce companies out there. I saw it in the early to mid days. So that is my experience before this, but now I am committed fully to the AI space. So yeah, I hope that for the so far for this session and for whatever that is remaining, let's uh, let's move on to the next topic that we have. And yeah, you should check me out on LinkedIn as well. I recently gave a TEDx talk. So for those of you who want to understand how AI can help you with your startup a lot, do check that out. And I hope you'll find a lot of value there as well. Okay, so this is it. There are people who are dropping. Shiv Kumar is very curious about my Thailand trip. Shiv, I'm not going to share that information here. But anyway, all fun aside, guys, let's start with getting a bit more hands-on with AI very soon after this couple of concepts. Okay, I think one very important concept that you will hear about again and again and again is context. And this context is what allows one AI or the chat GPT to be different for you than to be for me, than to be for Funny. For anyone who's using, context is what makes it different from one person to another. We are different people, we have different kinds of requirements, and that's why AI should behave differently and customized and relevant for us. So that context is provided through multiple methods. One is through training data, right? So when ChatGPT is scraping the entire internet, OpenAI team had done that. Let's say they trained on one part of the internet. Maybe Anthropic's Claude trained on another part of the internet, which is overlapping with it. Maybe Google Gemini did on another part of it, which is again overlapping. So they all have different training data, which means they have all seen different things, so they will behave differently. So data training is that how it's like reading books. If you have read all the psychology books and I have read all the coding books, then our brains would be different. We will talk differently, we will have see the world differently. Correct? That is what context and data training is. Now, when you talk about, again, slightly semi-technically, the way to train a large language model is through these two big concepts. And this is what I remember in 2013, I was training my first neural network. It was a small neural network because it did not have a huge compute. We used to deploy these techniques called forward propagation and backward propagation. In simple terms, what it does is you give it certain data and say that, okay, let's just take the example of, we gave it certain images of animals. So when we gave it the image of dog and we asked it to predict which animal is it, let's say for the dog, it first time it detected cat. So it will, I will give it feedback that no, it's not cat, it's dog. So it will go back. So the forward propagation is taking the data to pass through the network or through the system, And backward propagation is once you find an error. So error is it should be dog, not cat, or it should be value 10 and not 7, right? So the difference of this is passed back to correct the error. So there's a message or there's a data that flows back which says, oh, no, 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 you were wrong. Correct, please. So it will, in this process, correct the system in the process, go back. Then again, it does something, it corrects it again. Then again, it does it. So it's like, it's called error minimization framework. So you do this millions and billions of time, and then suddenly AI becomes super sharp and very accurate. It's still not as accurate as you like. It hallucinates. Yes, all of that happens. But this is the process that happens. Okay. And again, it is a deeply mathematical method. But the fact is, it's like the two of us are talking, or you're talking to your child, let's say, and you say, Beta, this is a dog. And the child says, no, no, this is a cat. You say, no, 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 this is a dog. You have to give it feedback. This is the mechanism with which you train these computers. It is very similar to how you train a child in very simple ways. Okay. And as I told you, these are all trained on different sizes of data, different kinds of data, and they all deploy transformer model. They all have the ability to form very long sentences and not lose its memory, right? So that memory, holding that information in memory is called context window. Does that make sense, guys? So context window is something you will see again and again. Remember the word context, remember the word training data, remember the word context window. So the larger the context window, the more ChatGPT can hold it in its brain, hold information in its brain, the way we hold it. It's called working memory, right? So right now you can typically, most models allow you to have 128,000 tokens, which is similar to more like 100,000 words. 100,000 words, which is like a big book equivalent memory it can hold and give you relevant answers. After that, if you ask it, it will start forgetting the older one and you'll say, isko kya hua? Right? Why is it behaving oddly? So, Saurabh, context window and contextual memory are similar concepts. Yes. But I think the context window is used more in terms of these GPTs or in terms of these AI models. And contextual memory is usually used more in a human context. That's broadly the difference. Shubham, it is limited because of, if you don't limit it, then it becomes very expensive to run. It starts losing meaning because it becomes a very complex, think of it like a very complex equation. The more variables and data you put, the more hard it becomes to solve it. So people are trying to solve this memory for longer. For example, Google has tried to do it for 2 million context window, which is like something like 100 times bigger than, or rather 20 times bigger than ChatGPT, but its performance drops. Okay. Now, within this, let's break down a few ideas and remember the word GPT. Like I like to think of GPT actually whenever I talk to non-technical people, I like to call it general purpose technology. Okay. Which means it's like a raw intelligence which you can use for anything. The way you use your human brain for, you can practically use GPT for any text and language related material. But in more technical terms, it's called generative pre-trained transformer. So you can see the meanings here, right? The generative means it represents this ability to generate language. Pre-training means that this model already has billions of pages in its database, which it has trained itself. But there is also, it's called pre-trained because you can customize this model for, let's say, law. You give it more law related Indian law case studies and databases of historical judgments. It becomes sharper in that. You give it medical database, it becomes sharper as a doctor. So it's called pre-trained because it generalized dunya ka sara gyan de diya. It has the entire world's database practically in here, whatever is legally obtained. And then you can customize it for personal use cases or organization ka use case. And finally, transformer is represents the architecture. It is the way, because there were other kinds of architectures. GANs is another kind of architecture. Transformer is another, and there are many others. But the most powerful one that we have found so far is transformer. And scientists are trying to find even better ones than this right now. So this is what GPT means. Okay. Now, even in this, I want to, because you were asking a couple of, I've seen some questions, guys. Some of these will be answered going forward, right? So when you train, right, let's understand what training means. There's a small error. It's called pre-training. So what it does is it takes in all the data and puts it in its system and makes a, I told you about the embedding thing, and it creates this network and graph of all the words and their meanings, right? It does that first. But then you don't want it to just generate text. You want it to respond to human instructions. You want it to, you want to ask questions. So it's called instruction fine tuning. The idea is to make the model as helpful as possible. Okay. You want it to behave in ways you expect it to. And then finally, to make it really powerful, this is why, and there is a, I'll tell you something surprising. Do you know that when ChatGPT came out, it was free for a very long time for limited usage, of course. Even right now, we have GPT-4o available for free for limited usage. The reason why they do it for free has two reasons. One, so that they can, attract users and convert them into paying customers later. That is the business reason. But then there is a technical reason that whenever even the free users use, they give it feedback of thumbs up and thumbs down of which responses they like and which responses they don't. So every time you give it feedback, we were talking about the child training thing, right? Is it a dog? Is it a cat? If the child says the wrong thing, you give it feedback. They, hey, you were wrong. This is actually a cat, and so on. That is called reinforcement learning. And this is where it becomes really humanly intelligent and we start getting impressed. So there are three steps. Take all the data, put it into the system. Second, ask it, ask it to respond to instructions in a helpful manner. It is, you will always see, it will say, hey, how can I help you? This is how it says. It responds and then says, are there any further things you want to know from me? There are some, it will give you three questions. Is there a question you want to ask? That is instruction fine tuning. And finally, a lot, like billions of people are giving it feedback of which responses they like, which responses they don't. And that's when it becomes really damn smart. Okay. This is how GPT-3 and GPT-4 were trained and similar models were trained. Got it? Omar is asking, is there any LLM more successful than transformer model? As of now, no. This is the base idea. There is a new kind of research that is happening. If someone is interested, I'm typing that in the chat room. Whoever is slightly technically oriented, you will like this idea, neurosymbolic AI. Okay. So far, it is good at predicting text, but it is not truly smart. It cannot do anything as smart as humans can. So for that, we will have neurosymbolic AI in which that is happening. Kishore is asking, what is the difference between GPT-3 and 4? Kishore, two differences. One, GPT-4 has like a much bigger brain. Okay. So the bigger the brain is, usually the smarter it is. And second, GPT-4 has much bigger training data. So it is a bigger brain with more books that it has read. So it becomes a smarter intelligence, right? Omar is also asking what would be considered true intelligence. We will talk about that, but to give a very simple answer to it, intelligence is the ability of a system, a person, an animal, a machine to respond to new situations successfully. Okay. If we are to do the same thing over and over again, then it does not require much intelligence. But if you are doing new things again and again, and if you are able to solve them successfully, that is what requires intelligence. That is the most broad definition of intelligence, right? The funny thing is, when you predict these words and tokens, it still appears quite intelligent. It is, but it is not as intelligent as you would like. Okay. So this is where we are. And now I was talking about how you can customize an LLM for law use case, for medical, which means you need to give it more medical books. You need to give it database of previous patient cases of heart, of lungs, of brain. Once it sees so many patterns of different heart diseases and brain diseases and so on, it will now be able to diagnose a new patient faster, help a doctor with finding a cancer faster, better, smarter. That is what fine tuning is. For that, this is what you do. You have the pre-trained model. There are companies which offer pre-trained models and then say, you take my model and then customize it however you like, right? So let's say the Indian justice system says, oh, wonderful, let me download this model in my big computer. And then I will give it all my books, all my previous cases, all my previous judgments, and then train it in a, again, that's a technical thing, but that's how fine tuning works. Okay. In a particular domain, it becomes smarter. So we are headed towards a world where we'll have these base foundational models, and there'll be thousands and thousands of these specialized models. Someone is good at US law, someone is good at Indian law, someone is good at let's say policy making for the Western world. Someone is good at policy making for Chinese and in China, and then maybe something for India. That is fine tuning. Okay, make sense? And we've spoken about this. You can, again, you can do this on a smaller scale also. You're a small company, you want to fine tune for your support documents. You want your support staff to have access to high quality chatbots, and your customers should be able to chat to your system as if they're talking to humans. You can also give, let's say, 20 pages of support documents, FAQs you can give it, and it will do a mini fine tuning, and it will respond according to your company's policy and company's reference. Make sense? Got it. Guys, there are a lot of messages you are sending in direct. Will not be able to read them all in the middle of this. But as soon as the chat window opens for everyone, I think it'll be nice for you guys to drop in the public setup, right? And I will take up a few questions after every now and then. Okay, so here we are. I think I gave you a sense of what fine tuning is. Simply taking the model, customizing it for a business, for a government, for a industry, whatever. Now, what happens is that the more data you put in and the bigger the brain you want, the more compute it uses. What is compute? It's like your CPU running itself for every second. It uses certain energy. It uses certain, we call it compute operations. So every time data goes through the CPU and it is processed on ones and zeros, and a GPU, it happens slightly differently, right? But the more big the brain is, the bigger the data is, more compute you use, and the more compute you use, the more energy you need, the more heating happens, so more ACs you need. So I'm just giving you a sense of why using AI will eventually lead to a lot of stress on energy requirements. Already these companies are using um, energy of the order of a few small towns, like maybe a small city, whatever energy it uses every day is the amount each of these models are using. Can you imagine? That's how big the energy consumption is, and we have only started. It will only grow 10 times in every year, the amount of energy. So we have a lot of stress. We need to figure out ways to solve energy as a problem, and sustainability has become a new concern again, right? Okay, so I think so far we've entered, I've kind of covered a bunch of these segments on fine tuning and, what does training mean and pre-training mean. So I want to make sure before we enter the next segment, which is going to be prompt engineering. Now we can, Funny, do you think, do we have the time to take questions for a little bit? There are so many, it'd be very hard for me to pick up. If you can maybe help me pick up, or
I'll do
uh,
that. I'll do that. So let's take questions for 5 minutes. And folks, after we go slightly more into it, we have a quiz coming up as well, which is again something for you to get a refresher of everything that you have learned. But what I'm going to do right now is I'll open the chat box up and I've turned it to everyone. When you're posting your question, please do send the message to everyone so that the whole group can read the question and make sense of it. And I'll read out a few questions. And towards the end, we will again have some time dedicated for Q&A. So even if we are not able to take your question right away, we will take it towards the end as well. So let me
Yeah, I
quickly.
think I will start taking questions from here when people have replied it to everyone, because wo pehle wale mein there are so many now, it's hard to
Yeah.
run through them. Maybe some of you guys can repeat, and I'll try and pick up, guys, questions which are relevant to the immediate topics we have for everyone's focus. I think that is important. I would love to talk about everything else, but that right now is not the right time. Maybe we can do a separate one for it. So Arindam has asked, how can we train LLM on our own data? Right. So Arindam, there are tools and services or softwares available online which let you do that to an extent if the data is small. But if you want to train on your large data, you will have to go to GitHub, and there are custom libraries which let you, which you can install on your large computer system to give your data. You will in fact ask this question to ChatGPT to tell you the exact instructions, but there are specialized tools and softwares which let you do this much easier. Even OpenAI does give you an interface for doing fine tuning if you're registered on the enterprise plan. Okay. That is this. How the training process is controlled. Najab, I'm not sure if I understand what it means to say training process is controlled. It's not clear. There are again, extremely challenging kind of programming and coding challenges which are needed to control training. But I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying. Dheeraj is asking, is neuroscience a major integration part in developing? Absolutely, Dheeraj. The inspiration for AI has been neuroscience. In fact, our brain is so complex that it is hard for us to understand our brain without AI. It's so funny that our brain created AI that is helping us understand our brain back. So it is going to be very important, because the fact is our brain can generate more intelligence in less than 0.1% of the energy, or rather 0.001% of the energy of any of these AI. So for such little energy, it is able to generate this intelligence, which means there is so much more for us to learn, and science will try and replicate this biological intelligence more and more over time. You're right.
Nivedan, one common question that I'm seeing a lot is about the safety of the data when we are using it to train models and all of that. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so there are two kinds of environments in which training can happen. Okay, one is on a cloud where which is not in your control. Let's say you're using a Google Cloud or something, then and you're a big company, you usually want to avoid sensitive data being exposed to a cloud or someone else's computer servers, because if you doubt, they may breach into it. So that is not recommended. But if you want to have complete privacy, you do something called on-prem or on-premise. You have computers that you're hosted in your own office, on which, and they have to have so many GPUs. It's not going to be easy if you have a large data set. If you have to small use case की support staff के लिए 20 पेज का FAQ document, and if this happens, that is how they have to respond. इस case में refund देना है, and this is when you say no to the refund, so on. If this is simple, you can do it anywhere, anytime. But the privacy concern comes when, one is, if your data is very very sensitive, you don't want it out, you better do it on your own local systems. There are systems that Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and even OpenAI are offering, which promise that enterprise fine tuning can be done with complete privacy. These big companies you can still trust, as long as you read their fine tune and the terms and conditions properly. I recommend strongly everyone should always read terms and conditions whenever dealing with sensitive data, because it is likely that it might be misused. So thumbs rule is to do not trust anything, and then you read, and you do only trust the big companies, and then you only trust them after you've read the terms and conditions, if this is as important to you. For example, when I use it personal use case, I don't put in any sensitive data, so I'm cool. But I would not recommend the same to a company. In fact, this same question was asked when I was training the HR team, or the leadership team of Adani. They had the same concerns, and they have decided not to use any of these cloud services. Right. So there we go. Chat GPT and Copilot have the same brain. Yes, Akil, they have the same system behind it. You're right. One of the segments they must have kept separate, like some servers must be kept separate for Microsoft, and they would have fine-tuned a little bit for Excel separately, fine-tuned a bit for PowerPoint separately. That does happen. So that they have fundamentally the same technology, same brain of OpenAI's GPT-4 and now 4.0 वगैरह. Shubham is asking, what are we fine tuning in the model? Okay, again, let me answer this again. Fine tuning means, let's say if ChatGPT was not trained on any sort of medical data, and you try asking it what is fever, it will not be able to tell you what is fever. Okay, but then you give it, and in a set, you find a way to fine tune, in the sense that you give it many books and many cases where fever is studied. Now you ask fever, it will give you very high quality answer of what is fever. That's what fine tuning is. Giving it information to make it more relevant for your need. Okay, you're a finance company, you wanted to know the history of stock market, but you're a medical company, you don't care about the stock market. That is what think of it like customizing the intelligence. Naga Kiran is saying, any comments on AI hallucination? Surprisingly, AI hallucinations will always happen. It is not an error. I'll tell you something very ridiculous, and this is what these people who are making these models saying, that hallucinations are expected. They are not an error. They look like an error because AI does not know what is truth and what is not truth. It does not have the concept of truth. So if it has read 2 pages on the internet, one page says that eating chocolate um, uh, causes diabetes, the other says eating chocolate cures diabetes. They are used, it has read both these pages. Now, poor AI, think of it, empathize with the poor AI, that how will it know which one is true? So it sometimes predict, sometimes in its answer, it will say AI does cause diabetes, oh, sorry, chocolate does cause diabetes. And sometimes probabilistically, it will respond with this answer. If this answer was in 100 pages and this answer was in 1 page, then it will more likely give this answer. And you will see it is probably, you will think it is true, but every now and then it will give the wrong answer, which is when you call it hallucinations. So it will always happen because it is probabilistic. It does not know what truth is. And that is a big problem area. That is a research area. And that is why many things about AI are hard to implement, because you cannot afford a lie in the middle of a work day. Hmm. Imtiaz, if you use your financial data in Microsoft Excel, if you are on the enterprise plan or if you are on the paid plan, then it usually it promises you, check out the terms because there are multiple plans. Some of those plans which are free and low price can use your data and it is not safe. Some of those plans are enterprise kind where they maintain your data privacy and do not use it in their training. So you do not lose your data to them. Then Vishal is asking GPT-4 trained beyond 2021 year data. Yes, I think they have updated recently to sometime in 2023. Mid of 2023 is what I remember last. After that, it's not so much. But then they also introduced the ability to search, which means it can actually search the same way as Google, load all of those search results in its context window, put it in its memory, and then respond to you as if it has the latest information. Then there are some ethical issues that Dheeraj has raised. Yes, Dheeraj, you're absolutely right. A lot of people are pissed off that their creative work, their writings, their paintings, their images, their videos have been used in training set without their consent. Uh, a majority of the data set is public use, in which case the consent is not a problem. But some of these, the consent is a problem, and that is where a lot of lawsuits are happening. And we will see a lot more drama happening around this. It is across the ethical boundary for sure. It should not be okay that people who don't want their data to be inside AI, they should not be using it. You're right. So we've taken a few questions. Samson has asked, what are better, longer prompts or shorter prompts? We'll come to this, Samson. There is no one right answer, but in general, prefer longer prompts. Push yourself to tell AI more answer inputs. Abhimanyu, you are asking about energy use of AI. I told you the AI is run on computers, the huge computers. These computers, when they run, they need electricity to run, and electricity requires energy. Similarly, these computers also become very heated. They become really hot. So they need cooling. And for cooling, you need air conditioning. And air conditioning again needs energy. And these demands are extremely high. That is why AI is a huge environmental concern at this point. Intelligence comes at a cost. Here, the cost is not just dollars, but also electricity and energy. Saurabh, you're asking, can you fine-tune ChatGPT to specific domain? No, you cannot fine-tune ChatGPT to specific domain directly. You can give context to limited extent in something called custom instructions, search custom instructions there. And then you can give it your particular relevant information and it will do better. But if you want to train it on a large data set, there is a completely different method to do it, which I think is more for technology people. At this point, it is hard for non-technology people to fine-tune things.
Okay, I think there are many more questions coming in, Nivedan. Maybe what we can do is towards the end we can take more questions.
Yeah, it would help, Funny, if you can make a note of some of the more frequent questions so that
Yes, I'll do that.
And
Yeah.
because, yeah, I just noticed there are so many questions. I appreciate the curiosity, guys. I think that, I'd be more than happy to answer all of these, but let's stick to the timeline now. We've taken 10 minutes for this. Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys, are we excited about the next section? We will take up some questions. Please do not worry about your questions. Some of these questions being unanswered, given the interest of time. But I want to know if we are all set in to know how to talk to AI through prompting very well. Is this a topic that is of excitement for everyone? Quickly, since we've had a break, I need a little bit of pump again. Let's okay, awesome. Okay. So now we're going to get into some cool things about prompting. And let me tell you, surprisingly, most of us, tell me, right, if I'm wrong, most of us use ChatGPT or any AI as if we are using Google search, correct? The way we use Google search, we use ChatGPT. And second, often we use it for writing emails and some content, correct? These are the two most common use cases that I know that most of us use for. Then the ones who are coders, they use it for coding. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So this is there are two use cases. And let me tell you, I do not use ChatGPT for both of these. This is the most frequent one because I think AI can offer us so much more that using it like Google and using it like a email writer is poor guy's disrespect. So we're going to see some examples which will tell you one different use cases, but also smart ways of using it there. Okay, now let's get started. So number one, let's understand what prompt engineering is. In simple terms, prompt engineering is a way to talk to AI in a way that is extremely clear. Your instructions have to be clear. What do you want? Who are you? Can you give this information to the machine before you expect a high quality answer? The art of doing that better and better is prompt engineering, right? We'll try and see simply, because what we want is more and more relevant answers. We want accurate answer, but it can only happen if we know how to give it instructions. Simple as that. That's what prompt engineering is. Now, these are certain implications of using prompt engineering. We have to be clear. It improves the relevance and the quality of responses we get. It is not generic and vague. And sometimes AI does not understand us well. It's only because sometimes in our instructions we get contradicting information. It's like, give me a long answer but not too long. If this is our prompt, then you can expect it to be confused. Poor guy, right? Treat it like a little bit of a human who gets confused quickly, right? And then you'll say, okay, if I'm talking to a human who gets confused quickly, I will probably talk to this person slowly and give it clear instructions. Tell it step by step that, do this, do that. Okay, are you sure? That's how I like to think. It's a little confused human. Okay, maybe a confused toddler. So how would you talk to him? Don't treat it like a very intelligent machine, and that is the best way to get the intelligence out of it. It's a weird thing, right? Makes sense. And prompting is going to be very fundamental in most use cases of AI, whether you're using it for marketing, for chatbots, for brainstorming, for finding creative business strategies and ideas, for coding. Everything that you do will require prompting as a base skill. Sometimes you need to be mindful that you will accidentally introduce bias in the prompting, and we have to make sure that we are following the ethics, the way we should keep our ethical standards high with AI. Otherwise, AI also learns the wrong things, and eventually it's going to bite us back as humanity. But most importantly, I think this is what I love. I called him my prompt hero. uh, all of these things that we're going to learn from here, remember, nothing beats this idea. Prompting is very, very fundamentally about thinking. Okay, if you are a good thinker, only then can you give great prompts. Very important. It's not some specialized, it's not like learning a different language. It's not the same as learning a sport, because it is fundamentally a thinking skill. The more clearly you think, the more articulate can you be in your prompt. So remember this as a thumb rule, that whenever you're struggling with a good answer, ask yourself, am I thinking clearly? Right? Am I expressing and articulating clearly? Make sense? If that makes sense, guys, does that make sense? By the way, quickly give me a thumbs up if you think that thinking is the base skill of prompting, and then everything on top of that is a technique. Okay, remember that. Have technique is different than skills. So if you're a good thinker, if you're a logical thinker, if you have clarity, you will always be a better prompter than someone who only knows techniques. Okay. So this is a big, big disclaimer that I want to give, and it cannot be emphasized enough. Okay, so there are a bunch of these techniques. We'll go through them one by one. We'll take some examples, and we'll see what kinds of responses we get. Okay, but then we have all used a ChatGPT interface. Since we are learning a bit more in depth about AI, we will instead use something called OpenAI Playground. Okay, and this is what it looks like. You can see the playground as well, and yeah. So you can see this is what Playground looks like. The regular ChatGPT interface everyone has seen. We're going to use Playground because we need to talk about some of these customizations that the OpenAI company has allowed us. We will understand what each of these customizations are. So if we want to have a control on the creativity, on how strictly you want it to be rigid, how creative do you want to be, what is the length, do you want to have repetition or not, and so on. These are multiple controls. So we'll look at this. So let's start with this. Okay. So first is temperature. You can look at this temperature here. You can reduce it from 0 to 2. Now 1 is the default. What temperature actually means is it allows, it is like us giving an instruction. So if we put in temperature to 2, let's say, then we are asking AI to consider low probabilities also. So remember, we were saying that AI generates text by probability of only high probabilities. That way, it makes the most logical, coherent sentence. But if you make it 2, you will say, nahi, jo kam probable hai na, the less probable options also, please consider them in your response. But if we do it closer to 0, we are saying, do give me only the highest probability. Don't give me variety. I need only the highest probability things. Every time I ask you, don't go here and there, and don't give me creative ideas. Okay, broadly, this is what it means. Then we have the idea of maximum tokens. This tokens, see, maximum it goes till 16,000 something. Okay, and starts with there. So this maximum tokens, why this is important is, again, because you want to control the length of the answer. Sometimes you only want a quick answer. You don't want all the gyan. Sometimes you want an elaborate answer. So you can control it from here. But also it has implications on the cost. You want to save money. You want to keep the least number of tokens that gets you the outcome. Okay. So if you are doing a quiz in which only there are 2-3 kinds of options possible, make it small token, less tokens. But if you want, you are studying a topic and you want to elaborate, make it larger. Make sense? So that way you can optimize for cost also, right? Otherwise it costs you money. Right? Now comes something called top P or nucleus sampling. Now, this is very similar to temperature in some ways, right? But it allows you to, give me a second. Yeah, so it allows you to again control on a second layer. Imagine similar to, very similar to temperature, but you want more variety, increase T again. You want more variety, increase temperature also. You want increase length, increase this, right? This is how we are looking at it. So it's very simple. You don't want to, it's like the most frequent ones you want or not. Then comes, sometimes what happens is that AI repeats the same word over and over again, and you can avoid that. These are again small ways to control it. By default, everything is set on default here, right? But we don't, most of the times I do not recommend changing anything. But when you do, make sure you know what you're changing, right? So frequency penalty, the more you have as 1, closer to 1, it just strongly discourages repeating words. Okay. So you wanted to come up with newer and newer vocabulary all the time. But then there is a second layer to it. You wanted to give you new ideas, not just words, right? But at sentence level or idea level, you wanted to think more creatively again here. Give me more variety in the same response. Don't repeat anything. Then you increase or decrease the presence penalty. So if you increase it to, you can have, again, most of these are from 0 to 1 or 0 to 2. Okay. You should only play with them when you are a little bit more comfortable with this. Okay. You cannot do all of this through the chat GPT interface. Okay. I was look. So you have the more the value of presence penalty is, you want to push for new topics, new concepts, new ideas, and less for that. But the words ke liye you had frequency penalty. So all of this, again, these are similar, that the temperature, topic, presence are similar, but they're not the same. One is for creativity, the other is for similar meaning words, the third is for similar or different ideas. Okay, so I think these are some of the technical things. We will see this in action now. These were the theoretical meaning of all of this, right? And it lets you save as preset here. So let's say we want a high temperature. This sab kuch high kar dete hai, let's say for now. Frequency penalty will reduce. Let's say save as preset. Test 1. This way, for certain use cases where you need more creativity, you can improve them, increase them. For certain use cases, you need less creativity, you want more determinism, ki same answer hai, you decrease them. Okay. So this is where you're going to start with the first prompts of the day. So we'll start with something called zero shot. What it means is we do not give it much context. What that means, I'll give you an example here. We'll take this. So when it doesn't know anything about you, anything more than, one line of what you want from it, it gives you generic response. I never encourage zero shot prompting until unless you want to know a basic fact. What is the capital of India? Right? What is the capital of Maharashtra? These are things which you don't need further context. So when you're using it like Google search, it's okay to use it that way. But let me take an actual example. So let's start with this one. So the simple way is you go here and paste. So I've gotten this prompt in place that you analyze the sentiment of this sentence, right? So yes, sentence, if you were to see this in Amazon or some other website, you will immediately know that this is a positive feedback, correct? That's what we're asking AI to do, analyze the sentiment. Let's run it. See, it says the sentence ka sentiment is positive because it has used the language this and that. Got it? Basic. This is zero shot. I didn't give more context of who I am, what the product is, and nothing. You don't need it here in this case. Maybe we'll take another example. So I'm going to take a few examples so that it starts making sense. And you'll understand why I discourage zero shot by default, unless using at Google search. The next one we do is this. Create a catchy social media post about benefits of meditation. Now, what do you think? Will we get a very high quality post or will we get a generic post? Right, guys? You can already see we will not get a very highly customized post here. Now look at this. Something happened. Okay. See, this is what happens when you play with this. As soon as I increase the penalty to 2 and 1, right, I have increases so much that it is going to random places now. So it is never advisable that way. You want to put them back to defaults. Otherwise, the testing is going to be bad. So reset to default. Give me a second. Does that make sense, guys? This failure is also a learning that you don't need to put it to this extreme. Let's put this again here. It went into its different languages also because it went into low probability ideas, low probability tokens. So we saw the perfect example of it. And beyond the point becomes meaningless. So you see, create a catchy social media. Now you'll see a generic one. Find your Zen, discover magic, ready to transform. You see, if you were to see this on LinkedIn, you will know it is AI, correct? All of us can detect this is AI, correct, guys? And you don't want to be someone who is putting up very generic ones. So the next ones that as we go further, we'll take example of how we can do it better. Then we'll take another example here. Simply say, summarize this text. Okay. and see what it gives us. So we can establish that zero shot with no context, one quick line of prompt gives us very generic answers. It has given a summary also. Now, when you are okay with a casual summary, you don't have a specific thing. Now, see, in this case, summary is almost as long. So I would, in this case, do something. We'll come to this proper idea, but we want a smaller one. We'll give it feedback. Summarize in 15 words, let's say. See, now it has given a short summary. Because I did not mention how many words, it can sometimes give me longer answers, and there's no point if the summary and the original one is the same order. We've done this as well. So this was zero shot, very generic. But now we will give it some context, some examples, some more instruction of what kind of a response we want. Now imagine that this is what we said, right? If you can think well, then you know what you want. You know that you have a certain kind of content in mind. You know you have a certain kind of summary in mind, and what the like is that summary for a CEO or is that summary for a 5-year-old child? Who will tell it that? So this is where a few short prompting comes in, where we give a few more inputs than this. Okay. And once you give that, here's an example of this. I'll actually put in directly here. 1 second. So when we give it more inputs is when we call it few shot. Let me clear this out. We're saying analyze the sentiment of these sentences. So we are asking it more than one things. We are giving it more instructions. Now here we have someone was asking, can it detect sarcasm? We could also tell it what does sarcasm look like. If it doesn't catch in once, you tell it that this is sarcasm, it will be able to detect sarcasm much better. Okay. So that is possible. Yes. It will sometimes not be able to get it. So we gave it some examples and then we said, iska sentiment batao. Now we're giving it more of our intelligence into it. And that is positive. So this is one example. It's very simple. But then let's do this. Let's create content with this. Okay. Okay. So we first gave it example of how a couple of social media posts look like, which I like, which I think are engaging. And then I say, give me a social media post. Earlier, we only gave this much. So we gave it some example of what is the kind of tone we want. We all write in a different way. We all speak in a different way. So whatever is your tone, you can put it. This is how I customize all my content as well. Now, as soon as you gave it these examples, it knew what to give. See, feeling stressed, unlock a calmer, more focused you. Start small, breathe deeply. So see, this borrowing the style of writing from here. I think that borrowing the style is what you want. You want your AI to be like you, not to be a generic robot which represents average of every human. And then finally, we take the example of summarization. In this case, what we do is instead of asking just summarize, we say summarize in this format. Summarize starting with this. So we know what kind of the summary tone we want to keep. We give it that and let's see the response from it. So these are very simple examples. We'll take a couple of more complex examples, but it should start with this. It understands this instruction and this is how it starts. So we now have something which suits more to our needs. If you know what you want, AI knows what you want. Then we'll come to this. Let's come to this example. We've already covered this. We'll come to chain of thought. Now we are forcing it to think smarter by giving it step-by-step suggestions. Okay. Instead of giving it just one input or something, we give it proper step-by-step instruction, and then you see quality improve even further. Let me give you this also. Here you go. Okay. So now the same sentiment analysis. We are taking the same examples intentionally to see how the evolution of prompt happens. Okay. And again, each time it depends on your use case, how much like that use case decides how detailed and stepwise you want to go. So we'll say that for this sentence, you want to analyze the sentiment, but then you wanted to think step by step. You said, give me a topic, then tell me the words which are positive or negative, then tell me the overall sentiment and provide a conclusion. Okay, we run this. Now you have forced it to think and reveal its thinking to you. So it's like when you don't understand something a friend said, you said, wait. Can you explain it again slowly, step by step, the way a couple of you said that Nivedan, this becoming too technical for the part of vector embeddings and so on. Then I broke it down and repeated it, and I opened the flow chart again. This is exactly what it is doing. You can see this, right? It follows this. And now you have a transparent thinking happening in front of you. We'll apply the same logic for meditation. Now, if you're a meditation coach and you want to create content around it, you will say that give me in this sequence, right? Give me these segments in that social media post. And here we go. So it gives you these and basis. Now you say basis this, draft the final post. You see, now it knows the segments you want to have. In fact, I should have not, instead of step 1, step 2, step 3, I should have written section 1, section 2, section 3. So that would have simplified it. But we got everything here. This is the CTA. Now, this time it has given us a short answer. We can ask it for a long answer also. So you can always give it feedback and get it done. You see? Does that make sense? How you can customize it? Very simple examples. Now that we've understood this, we will apply the same logic, like we will use the same prompt, but we'll play with this. Okay, I gave you these examples. Let's see how it changes. So let me take this. Where is it? So this was using the default settings. Okay, I will change it and maybe increase the presence penalty. We will hold on. Let me actually give you the exact inputs here. 1 second. Okay, so we'll have consistency from one prompt to another, right? Temperature lets you maintain consistency and does not give you too many varieties if from one prompt to another. We'll reduce the max tokens to, let's say, much smaller. We want a smaller post this time. Let's say 350 something. Okay. Then we will, let's say, we won't change this easily. We'll keep this because I know I also avoid changing this because it brings in too much variance otherwise, unless you're sitting down to do things properly. Segment 1, segment 2. So we saw if we reduce the temperature, right? Now, if we produce this again, because the temperature is low, it won't vary the things significantly. The variation will be smaller, is what it tells you. Now, if we were to increase the temperature and then ask the same thing, we will see the previous response will be very different from the new one. See, regular meditation enhances several aspects of life, is the tone, versus meditation offers a multitude of benefits. So the tone has changed significantly. And you can see here, like, the kind of um uh, the kind of language that is there. We've used all the, what are these called, emojis. It is used all the emojis, but the language has become a bit more varied in terms of the kind of ideas it's presenting. So you will see some difference here. For us to see a big difference, we'll have to increase this completely and reduce this completely. So I encourage you guys to play around with this for the same answer, because I think if we keep doing this for every answer, it'll take a very long time. So I'm avoiding that. So we've got this. Then let's try out something else, which is one of the coolest things you can learn is, instead of you crafting the entire prompt by yourself, you ask it to generate prompts for you. Now, which is weird. The fact that you don't need to prompt always, it can generate prompts for itself, is an insane idea. So we'll make it do that now. Okay. Let me find you this. Okay, found this. Put this back to normal. So we're going to ask it for meta prompting here, which is going to look like, okay. So we give it a raw prompt and we ask it to make a high quality prompt. Hold on. Let me edit this. We are on GPT-4. Oh yeah, should work. Okay, here you go. So see, sometimes when you're thinking, how do I create a long prompt and detailed prompt? This is how you do. You put in a basic prompt and you ask it to make it into a high quality prompt. So you will see, you will get ideas for your prompts becoming better. Look at this. Does this make sense? I use this a lot. I personally use a lot of Claude, and Claude is great at generating prompts. By the way, for whoever is interested and willing to spend a few bucks, you can easily get Claude, and it is great at generating high quality prompts. Okay. Does this make sense? So can we all try out, this particular meta prompting thing a lot, because this in a way is like your own mini crash course on prompt every time you make something. And you can always ask it that your prompt should have a structure, right? We can also give it a structure if we really want. So we saw this example. We saw this. Okay. We saw the demo. Fine. Okay. So now we got to the last two kinds of prompts, which is where we are getting advanced. Now, so far, what we were doing is basic prompting and then learning how to make a prompt using a prompt. But then this is where higher level intelligence is being commanded. So, for example, the new launches of OpenAI, like OpenAI O1 and so on, they have this inbuilt in them. The tree of thought prompting is inbuilt in them. Tree of thought and chain of thought prompting. It what it says is, for every problem to solve, you need to kind of go through several possibilities of what could be a good solution. Is this a good solution? Is that a good solution? Is this recipe good for you? Is that recipe good for you? You want to try out these different ways of arriving at an answer. That is what tree of thoughts is called. Okay. So you push AI to, generate and explore multiple pathways. So let's see an example of this. I'll paste this prompt. You can see the branch 1, branch 2, branch 3. So here's one example that you already saw, that the same thing can be looked at from the point of view of affordability, sustainability, innovation. All of these branches should be considered, and then you have to give me an overall answer, right? Consider that. Now that forces AI to be much more comprehensive and smart. Here's an example. Let's see this. Okay. So for the sentiment analysis, it is giving it two different branches only for now. And it says focus on the words as path one, and path two is to look at lack of negative things. Let's see. Okay, so it gives us a reasoning into what each path leads to a conclusion of. This will become more evident when you try to solve complex problems. It will not be as evident for, let's say, content creation, but we will still try it out for one of this. Hold on. See. So we'll say create a social media post basis two different approaches. One, you can focus on physical benefits. Second, you can focus on mental benefits. Simple as that. So we're asking to essentially asking it to give us two responses in one attempt. So if there are multiple angles you have in mind, all of those can be put out like this. So in this case, what has it done? Let me repeat it. Okay, in this case, we asked it to choose the best option, but let's me choose. This was create a social media post basis both these pathways. Now it will give us the two options. Okay, we have corrected our prompt, and it has included both these angles into this. Now we could have asked it to make two different social media posts also, that also it could do. So it lets you include multiple ideas at once without having to repeat this process again and again. Okay. And then finally, we have something called chain of thought. We'll cover that as well. So we'll talk about prompt chaining, where you are essentially doing a lot of to and fro. Abhi, we've done one prompt, one response, one prompt, one response, and we've improved the depth and width of that prompt by giving it more context, giving it step-by-step instructions, giving it alternate pathways to consider. We've done all of those possibilities. But then what we're going to do is something where we talk to it, the way we talk to a friend, that I say something, you say something, then I say something, then you say something. We build on top of each other's ideas. That is what simply prompt chaining is. Okay. And we'll take an example for it as well as the last one. Let's take this. Okay. Okay, so we'll do this. In fact, you can see this here, right? I mean, I'll take another example, but let's finish this example first. So you gave, this is an actual one that we had pasted earlier. So first, we ask one question at a time. It's like many small questions chained together, right? So who is the target audience for a recycled bottle? Give it an answer. But then if this is the target audience, what message will resonate? And if this message, kind of message will resonate, give me an example headline of for this. Make sense? And we'll see in another context. So first we ask for a summary the way we did earlier. We do this. Then we say, now that I have this summary, you could have had a long paper summarized into a few paragraphs also. Here's a quick example. Now, based on this summary, explain the UN's main goals. And you say that. And then you can ask another question. And which goals are the most important for India, let's say. You can keep following up with this way. This is again very recommended because it lets you think alongside AI much better. So this, I think, is the most practical, most effective way. And you don't need to have some fancy technique to do this, but know that you could have given more instructions in the beginning and then followed up with more and more prompts as you go, right? So that's your entire set of examples of prompts. Okay, so we have covered a lot of this, and we will be moving towards the final section of this. Um, Funny, should we take a few examples? I know people will have a few questions now. I think I can take a couple of questions on prompting so that we can address those. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Nivedan, Om here. Funny's just gone for a break, but what we'll do is we'll take a few questions and then we'll jump into quiz. And then we also have an activity for the day that we'll get started with so that people can actually experience this,
Correct,
everything
correct, correct.
on and get into it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll open up the chat to everyone so that they can start dropping in a few questions. I'll moderate it. I'll pick it up from the chat and give it to you so that we can cover them. Uh, Folks, the chat is open. It is open to everyone. You can start dropping in your questions in case if you have any at this point.
Okay, so someone's asked tree of thought. Let me explain it again.
Yeah.
Tree of thought. I'll show you a diagram probably that will make it simpler. Perfect. I found the perfect diagram for you on the spot. Let's show you that. Okay, guys, can you see this? So this is a good example. So any problem you try to solve, we have taken this, right? We have taken some of these examples. You take an input, and you get an output, right? Straight away. The other is you chain of, like, we saw these few short examples were of the first kind. Then the second kind is when you give it feedback to and fro and to and fro. But the third is you, instead of going in a linear chat, you split into different pathways, right? Which means, let's say you are trying to find a solution to environment crisis. Okay. Now, though, there can be, let's say the question is, help me solve the environment crisis. So we will ask it that, take three angles into account: the affordability, what are the financial constraints on environment crisis? Then take that into account. Is that the big reason? Second, are factories the big reason? Or third, are the cars the big reason? Right? We want to find out the reason why, let's say, climate change is happening. So for each of these, we will have multiple conversations for each of these options. And then at the end, we will say, okay, now we've explored different angles and now we can arrive at a conclusive, holistic answer. This is very useful. This is how you, in the real world, you do it, right? When you brainstorm with people, when you brainstorm with your colleagues and friends, this is what you do. You say, aisa hoga to kya hoga, vaisa hoga to kya hoga. Okay, maybe this is the right. Oh, now let's account for everything and come up with a final conclusion and report. That is what tree of thought does. And the way to simulate that is to give that input in the prompt of considering different pathways of thinking. That's the pathway one, pathway two. Pathway one, consider the financial implication. Pathway two, consider the automobile implication. Consider pathway three, consider the industrial implication. That is it. Make sense? We've taken that.
Got it.
What else do
So
we
there's
have?
one question by Arvind who's asking, how do we tell OpenAI the information available on my website? And they give it they give it in terms of prompting so that output would be more relevant to my use case.
So Arvind, if you are yourself using it, I think there are two ways to look at it. If you want a quick solution to it, one is you can use since your website is public, right? Assume that you can take the URL, put in there, and it can, and if not, ChatGPT did not support that earlier. You can test that out. Some other tools support it. You put in the link, it can read the web page. If it does not, you print the web page, upload it back into ChatGPT chat as a PDF, and then you can chat with it. Okay, simple as that. If you want the entire website with multiple pages, if that's what you want, then there are specialized tools which you cannot use. You cannot use ChatGPT for it. There are specialized tools. I can tell you the names of AI tools after this, where these tools integrate with your chat, with your entire website, and make like a chatbot available to you or to the public, whoever lands on your website. I hope that answers your question.
Got it. There's one frequent question coming up since we use Playground, which is how is OpenAI Playground and ChatGPT different? And if we want to tweak the settings on ChatGPT, if we can do that or not.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the difference is this, guys. Go to Google. So normal ChatGPT is this, right? ChatGPT.com. But if you want to have access to Playground, you type OpenAI Playground. That's all you need to type. Go on Google. I type this and then find the URL. So it opens platform.openai.com. Once you go there, it asks you to log in using your ChatGPT account. But then it let me also show you one thing here. So it is simple as that to access. Let me show you how many credits do I have. Billing. Right. So I did, for you to use it, you will need to have some balance. I think in the beginning, it offers you $5. Just double check if that is still valid. So it allows you up to $5 or some amount. If it is not there, then you can upload, whatever custom $5, a small amount, and you can, within $5 you can chat a lot. By the way, you can chat a lot. That's how I'm able to chat with it, because it is very expensive for these guys to run it, so they need to make money somehow. So that's for sure. And they're still making losses. That's all you need to do. It gives you these options. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, folks, what you can also do is you can ask ChatGPT about all its settings. And when you add a prompt, you can mention that if you want to set top P or frequency at some level, it would include that in the prompt, and you will be able to use these settings in the ChatGPT also. We showed you Playground so that you can see what are the settings available and how can you tweak them. Even if you include this in your prompts, you will get the response a little more simpler. What is top? I think people need one differentiation between top P and frequency penalty and presence penalty. I think there are a few questions coming in.
Guys, I would say that these usually the simplest way, even though we covered all the topics, I strongly recommend that we should worry about these two only. Okay. Temperature and max tokens. Max tokens is obvious, as I told you, it affects the length of the answer as well as the cost of each token or a response. And temperature, you see, it essentially controls the variety that you get in answers, right? Everything else is for very, very advanced use cases. And I do not recommend you playing with it. Like, you can play with it. I do not recommend worrying about it, because you will not achieve much by doing it. So don't worry about it. These are very nuanced technical. These are meant for developers, actually. These three especially are meant for developers. These are meant for regular people. I think that is the best way to simplify it. Do not worry about these three as much. Okay. These are very nuanced and they have much more technical meaning, and we're trying to simplify it as much as possible. This one was still simple, but look at this. Like, this is a statistic. Top P is actually a statistical term. That's why I'm saying do not worry about it. Then guys, you can, again, it is, if you want a Playground access, you will need to pay it. Just check, you will get $5. So don't worry about it. Even if you don't, you can access these advanced settings. As Om said, you can give custom inputs of temperature and max tokens in the prompt itself. So you do not need to worry about the payment. And if you're not getting those $5, it's okay. You still can use it from the ChatGPT window. We were trying to explain it closer. Okay. Nandini's and a couple of people are asking, how is it different from Playground? So Playground is meant more for developers, okay, which means they need more control when they're making applications. For example, there is a voice application also, text to speech also, a lot of these options which are available for testing. This is a testing environment. Do not worry. Again, you will be not needing to use it day on day, but it is meant for developers, so you can test custom requirements. For those who want access to tree of thought, here's the example. Got it. I remember long time ago when I had signed up for ChatGPT, it gave me $5. It seems like it stopped that scheme. It does not available anymore. So sorry for that, guys, but it's okay. It doesn't affect anything. You can still use it there. Then what else are we getting?
Okay, I'm just looking at if there are any other common questions that we're missing out. I will start with the paid tool. Okay, prompt engineering. Signed up today. If I tell so Omar, if I tell ChatGPT to adjust its temperature and max. So yes, Omar, you picked up a right question, which is if I tell ChatGPT to adjust its temperature and max token values, or how do I reset it? If you can just tell ChatGPT on that screen, it will do that for you. Could you please okay, perfect. Okay, I think we have covered all of the questions which was coming up. And folks, if you're not getting free credits, it was something that was happening before, and it also depends on what country that you're signing up from. It was there in India also. It's not coming up right now, so don't worry about that. What we can do right now is we can jump into a quiz so that we understand how much of that we have consumed for the day's time and what exactly we are going to do, after the quiz. Okay, one topic is still left. Say it says one topic is still left. So basically what we'll do is we'll go through the quiz. Nivedan, should we cover the one or?
I think we have last 3-4 slides.
Okay,
So
let's do
we'll
that.
cover that. I think then let's do
Perfect,
the
perfect.
quiz, and then we have the entire AI app that we're making with Claude, right?
G.
So let's do that. But I strongly recommend for the since you guys are curious, eh, for the tree of thought, take this screenshot if you haven't yet. And I would say after this session, spend some time because this will take a little longer to simulate some of these examples because it is a more advanced prompting technique. So it is no point using it if you don't have a complex use case. So when you find a real complex problem, only then you should try it for yourself. And it's like brainstorming of an advanced level. Okay. Anyway, and it's slightly harder to execute through ChatGPT. It's easier to execute by a developer because in the same chat window, you can't have different blocks moving around and threads. So it's slightly harder to visualize there. Anyway, now I think the last thing that we want to cover, because we'll be moving to the AI app creation, which is going to be the most tangible application. A lot of these prompting techniques will be put in use there, and you'll be surprised that you don't need as much coding. But what one of the core principles in the entire world of AI, or in the entire world of software for that matter, is something called APIs. Okay. And API stands for Application Programming Interface. Right now, what that means is there are different kinds of systems that need to talk to each other. Let's say you're at a restaurant and you want dal makhani. Now, when you place the order for dal makhani to the waiter, do you really care about what cooker are they using? Do you really care about what spoon and ladle are they using? Do you care about how much lal mirchi and namak are they adding? We don't really bother about these. Like whatever this restaurant makes, we can at best say make it fika or tikha, right? So you essentially give this information to the waiter. Waiter goes to the kitchen. They do a lot of processing, which is unique to that kitchen. They may have a special biryani that only they know the formulation recipe, or they don't want to share with the world, but they allow you to eat it for a amount. So that's what is like an API. You don't need to know how the kitchen is working for you to get what you want, correct? And this is what API simplifies. There are multiple kinds of applications in the world. You've got the Googles and Microsofts of the world. You have Chat GPT talking to Microsoft Azure, right? The backend server of OpenAI is talking to you also, to Om also, to Funny also, to Microsoft's Copilot also. So all of those interactions are happening through this message, one message, because there's no point there's no point of me looking into the kitchen and how dal makhani is made. Similarly, there's no point of us as a user to look inside ChatGPT server and say that exactly my prompt, how is it being processed. So that is what API does. It simplifies this. It says, give me the message. What do you want? Give me the input. I'll tell you the output. Right. So it takes the message from here to there. That's what it does. And it usually happens between your mobile or laptop with the servers in the background, like a cloud computers that are sitting off Amazon and everything out there. So this is like a middleman, right? Now, any kind of information that is out there, it is usually exchanged in a format called JSON. We will, Om, would you be able to pull out a sample JSON? I think if we can see an input and output, I don't think we put it here. If we can bring out one example, that would be nice. But yeah, so it's one example that you can think of is your Uber app again, right? That kitchen example was a day-to-day one. But when you tap on the button of Uber, you select a car, you select the time slot now or later, you select, what payment method are you using, and then you say request a ride, correct? So these three information that you selected are passed on to a file. That file carries that it is Nivedan who is located at this location and is requesting a cab or an auto or a bike and is paying us through cash. All of this information goes to the backend through this file. This file is being carried in a way. This file is what API is carrying as an information. So this is the message that goes. Then the server says, oh, okay, it's Nivedan. He's standing in Jaipur somewhere, and this is what he wants. Let me see if we have. So it does a lot of processing in the backend, which cars are available, which are in his budget, is cash allowed for him, or has he done a penalty last time? It does all that logic checking behind. Then it comes back and responds that, hey, we found an auto for you. So I got an auto. And then my screen starts showing my auto is located 3 minutes away. So all of this information, it sends back that send Nivedan this auto of 1234 number of this driver. It sends all that information. I can see that on my screen. So none of that information would have been possible to exchange if internet wasn't there, and internet is carrying this information through API. Does that make sense, guys? Is this simple enough? Why we are saying this is because we are going to use the same logic of API in the AI application also very soon. Hopefully we'll use that today, but whenever you make any kind of a software, you will always need to build APIs. So when you use now, if you want to prompt chat GPT through your application, right? In this example, we'll take, if you have made a very simple travel booking app and you want recommendations on whether to go to Goa or Hampi, to Gokarna, to Bangalore, to Manali, to Makasol, whichever one you want. How that will work is, let's say you have made a custom app which asks the user that, hey, what is your mood? You want to go to the mountains? You want to go to the beaches? You want to go for partying, right? Maybe it asks you these options. Then you say, let's say I want to go to the mountains. Then it gives, okay, do you want to go with a family? Do you want to go with your spouse, with your girlfriend, with your children, with your whoever, with your friends? It will ask you these options. Then it will say, okay, this is who you're going with. Your purpose is to go to mountains and chill. Basis that, it will send that or collect that information you had, send it via API to ChatGPT server or OpenAI server. And OpenAI will run the query and respond back with, oh, looks like you're going with your friends. You might want to go to Kasol, right? Might want to go to somewhere else. If you're going with family, you might want to go to Manali, right? And so on. It will come with a detailed response. All of that is happening through API, which is hosted by OpenAI, and its server is doing the logical thinking, not your app. You don't need to worry about all that complexity. You just I want a recommendation on places, and basis this user's requirements. So your app will gather the requirement, your app will show the answers. All the middle process is being done completely by OpenAI. You don't need something super fancy. Okay. And so we've spoken about the entire thing of how this works. And to get a bit more technical, I think since we are not talking to developers here, these are the different kinds of methods. You can send information, you can receive information, you can delete certain information, and you can update certain information. So API lets you do a bunch of these kinds of interactions. In this case, what we said, we sent, right? We kind of we used post to send the information, and we use get to receive an information. That's all it means, nothing much more. It's basically a letter. It's no different than a post box letter that we had in the physical world and now replicated in the software world in a very simple way. That's what it is. And you will be using it, some of it, when you make an AI app or any problem that you solve. Okay. Cool. So Om has shared a sample API of what the format looks like. This is wonderful. Thank you, Om. So what do you want to see now? Slide number 150. Okay, here it is, guys. So we've covered all the concepts that are necessary. We've seen a few prompting examples. We've understood what AI is and what its capabilities are. And most importantly, I think I would like to remind everyone again of, to not over glorify something like prompting, glorify your thinking. If you can think clearly, push yourself to think clearly and articulate clearly. That is what a good prompt looks like. And then on that top of that, we have some hacks which help you get most out of AI. So that's where we are. I think with this, we can take a few examples and maybe head to the quiz. That would be broadly what my section covers. Thank you, guys.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. I'll just turn the chat on to everyone once again. Folks, that was about first session of the day, which basically sets the context for the full 2 days that we're going to spend. Yes, we'll have the break in some time. Don't worry about that, Rohit. What we can do right now is, we understand that since it is a beginning of AI, understanding A, B, C, D of how everything works, it might be a little technical for a lot of you people as well. But don't worry, everything is going to make sense. It is not just a 3-hour session, but a 16-hour commitment that you have made with us. What you can do is, I'll do this 1 second. We basically did an activity yesterday. We'll do that once again before we get into the quiz. So everybody who's on screen, Nivedan, I'll just stop the screen share and start sharing something of that I have.
Sure, please do. Please go ahead.
Perfect. So, folks, you know that we took a commitment yesterday, and here's what I would like you to do. Take some time to, get onto the gratitude channel and tell us how did you find the first session? How was the session? And let your words out. The one rule that we spoke about, be as expressive as you can, be as elaborative as you can, right? We structure the whole 16 hours experience in such a way that first session is basically the roots of the tree that is going to grow and get you a lot of fruits in the next 2 days as well. So take this time. We'll take 10 seconds, express how you felt about this session. If you find it interesting, if you found it helpful, there was something new that you learned, definitely for a lot of you, someone says it was a little heavy. Got it. Perfect. Nivedan, I hope you are able to see the screen as well. Some good words coming in for the session.
Yes, I can see. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being patient. A couple of these concepts were also a bit technical. And I hope, for those of you who are still curious and want to really get in depth, I recommend going in, very deep, and maybe we can connect one-on-one, and that would be a better place to discuss it. Otherwise, it would take half an hour to itself explain each one of those concepts. But I appreciate all the attention you guys have given. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Perfect. So what we'll do is we'll get into the quiz. We'll roughly spend around next 5 minutes understanding how much we have grasped from the first session. Then Funny will take you through the first activity of the day, and then we'll get into a short break that we have planned for you. Okay, so I'll stop my screen share for just a bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share you a link of how you can join the quiz, and I'm going to take you through how you can do that. When I do that, I will also, yeah, there's also a Zoom poll that is launched for you to rate the session as to how exactly you have liked it. If you're not on Slack, don't worry about it. We are going to come, when we take the break. At this point of time, we are going to do a short quiz and understand how much of that we have understood and taken back from the session. What I want you to do is, first of all, let me share the link in the chat. Okay. I'm pausing the Zoom chat for next 5 minutes. Join the.
There are a few people on the chat asking about the Slack link and all of that. We will get to it during the lunch break, which we will be getting to very soon. We have a couple of things to cover. We will finish the quiz, and then we will get into the breakout room activity where we'll all learn how to build an app, and then we will go for lunch. And during the lunch break is when we will help you with the Slack queries that are coming up. Yeah.
Got it. You should be able to see the link on the chat, and you should also be able to scan the QR code. What I'll also do is I'll turn the quiz on so that you're all able to see the number of people that are joining in. Perfect. Here's where you'll see the number of people joining in. When we have all, how many? All 700 people will get started with the quiz very quickly. Okay, we have 115. You can either scan this code or take the link from the chat. Okay, perfect. We have about 256 people. Let me also share the link on the WhatsApp group just in case, so you can take it from there as well. Okay, you would also be able to find that in WhatsApp. Got it. Interesting. 335. Let's take it up to at least 500, 600 people. We'll get started in. So what is going to happen for all you have joined in? You will get 20 seconds of time to answer all the 15, each question you will get 15 seconds to solve. And this will be fastest finger first. So the faster you answer, the top on the leaderboard that you get. 447 people, 451. We'll get started in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Om, let's
Oh.
give it 10 more seconds.
Okay, chalo, theek hai yaar. Funny is a little kinder.
Because I can see people's faces and I'm like,
Sure. No worries. No worries. No worries. Let's do that. So we are at 127. Let's start at 127.89. Let's start at 128, 129. Or at the time we hit roughly about 600, we'll do that. You can be on the phone, you can be on the desktop, however you want to use it. It's completely fine. 15 questions, one by one, 20 seconds for each question, and 4 options you will get for each one of them. And you will also hear the right question, sure. If you have seen the KBC, it's going to be a little similar like that. Kaun banega crorepati and who becomes a millionaire? Got it. Okay. I'm just fixing up my screen to get this started. Okay. 545, 546, 7, 9. ठीक है. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Screen, let me do full screen settings. Okay, we are at 567. Just give me one quick second. I'm just checking in something. Perfect. Eyes on your screen. The first question will be on your screen in next 5 seconds. 5, 4, the screen that you are on, desktop or mobiles versions. 3, 2, and 1. What is large language model? You have 20 seconds. A model designed for image recognition task, a model designed for predicting financial markets, a model designed to create 3D graphics, or model designed to generate text. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's look at. Oh, wow, perfect. 86% of you say model designed to generate text, and 12% of you says model designed for image recognition task. Okay, let's see where we are at. The right answer is model designed to generate text. Okay, LLMs are made for model designed to generate text. We'll come to the stable diffusion and other models in the next session, but for now, these are the model designed to generate text. The next question on your screen is, what was the first AI chatbot developed? Siri, Alexa, Eliza, ChatGPT. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Which one? Let's see. If you still remember, we covered this in the first 5 minutes of the session that we were in. 83% of you say Eliza. I think a few people joined in late, so they say Siri and other ones. The right answer is correct. Eliza stands to be the first AI chatbot that was ever developed. Okay, let's go to the third question. The third question on your screens now. What does tokenization refer to in AI? The process of generating tokens, breaking down input text into smaller units, encryption data for secure communication, or process of identifying objects in images. Oh wow, 460 people already answered. Interesting. And the time is done. We are at 94% of you say breaking down input text into smaller units for processing. Is that the right answer? It is definitely perfect. A lot of you are paying attention. We have done to the 3 questions. We are long way to go. Let's look at the next question, which is what does embedding do in an AI model? Break down text into tokens, converts tokens into numerical representations, train the models, or calculates the next word in a sentence. What does it do? There are 4 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. The final answer, the right answer, stands to be converting tokens into numerical representations. Okay. That's what embedding does in an AI model. Now, let's go to one more question before we look at the leaderboard for the first time. The fifth question for the day is what mechanism does the transformer model use to focus on important parts of input? Prediction, embedding, self-attention, or forward propagation? Okay, people are taking some time here, I see. Only 250, 300 people have answered. Okay, okay, let's look at a very good split. Prediction is the first one. Second one stands to be forward propagation and embedding. What is the right answer? Let's look at that. The right answer is self-attention. What basically happens is the transformer model pays self-attention to the important parts of the input. So when you give the input, when you give the prompt, it basically looks at what are the important parts of the full thing. What is the information that you're going to give as an output, and it looks at the data that it has, and based on that, it basically generates the output. So it pays self-attention to the data that it already has to generate the output. Okay, let's look at how does the leaderboard stand, at least for the first 5 questions. Omar is the first one. We have 10 more questions remaining, guys. Second is Sohail. Third is Sahil. Oh, wow. Interesting. Sohail and Sahil be the, be the second and third. Okay, let's go to the sixth question for the day. The sixth question on your screens now, which is, which of the following best describes fine-tuning in AI? Okay, let's look at what people have rated the most. Training a new AI model gets 4. Adjusting a pre-trained model to a specific task, 75%. And let me tell you that it is the right answer. Adjusting a pre-trained model to a specific task is what fine-tuning means, right? Because when you train a new model, it is called training. Fine-tuning is adjusting a pre-trained model. Perfect. Interesting. Let's get to the 7th question for the day, which is, what does GPT stand for in Chat GPT? What does GPT stand for in a Chat GPT? These might be a little easier questions for you to, score a little points on the leaderboard as well, but also to make sense as to what exactly they do when you understand them. The right answer, let's see what people have voted first. Generative pre-trained transformer, and the 23% vote goes to generative predictive transformer. The right answer is generative pre-trained transformer. It is pre-trained on the existing data that's available, ChatGPT. Okay. The 8th question for the day is, what is neural network? To make it easy, only three options for you: a sequence of image classifiers, a set of algorithms modeled after the human brain, or collection of unrelated data sets. What is a neural network? Okay, the time's up, and most of you voted 92%. Very interesting. Set of algorithms modeled after human brain to recognize patterns. And aren't you all correct? Are you? Yes, all of you are. Perfect. You're following through very nice, at least for the first session. Uh, Again, this is very important for us to set the base. So the 9th question is asking you, what is the purpose of data training in AI? To feed raw data directly, to generate predictions using static algorithms, to visualize data in graphs, or to teach the AI model patterns and decision-making processes. Okay, 87% of you say that to teach the AI model patterns and decision-making processes. Interesting, interesting. We are going at a decent pace. Nice, you guys are right. Let's go to the 10th question for the day. And we have 5 more questions after that. What is the role of the encoder in a transformer model? Encoder, to understand the relationship between input data, to generate output sentences directly, to convert tokens into predictions, or to make predictions for the next word. Okay, we are almost done. 60% of the quiz is done. To convert tokens into prediction gets the highest vote, and to understand relationship between input data. Okay, okay, this is going to be an interesting one. The right answer is to understand the relationship between input data. So the input that you give, the prompt that you give, it encodes and understands what is the data once again available. What is the relationship between what is being asked and what is being provided and what it can do. And so it understands that model in the backend. It encodes the data based on what you ask and then gives you the output. Okay. We'll touch upon these concepts once again. Don't worry while we are in the sessions as well. But the leaderboard after the 10th question looks something like this. Wow. No 3 people who are on top in 5 questions are on the leaderboard. Shobit, Natraj, Anil. 5 more questions. 5 more questions left. Let's go to the 11th question for the day, which is, what is response generation in AI? The first stage of breaking down text, a method of converting responses into numerical vectors, a way to predict input tokens, or the stage where the model creates complete coherent responses. Okay, let's look. I think this should have more than 90%, but I am wrong. The stage where the model creates complete coherent responses is 67%. Method for converting responses into numerical vectors is 24%. The right answer is the fourth option, where it basically generates a responses for you, which is coherent to the question that you asked. Okay. The 12th question on your screens now, which is, what does training a model typically involve? Gathering data but not using it, feeding the model random outputs, or feeding vast amounts of data to the model and adjusting its predictions, or only using pre-labeled images. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. The last 5 questions are most important ones for us to understand. 95%. Interesting. Good. 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 You guys are falling through. You guys are falling through to the right concept that you should basically understand. A few here and there, that's completely fine. We'll capture that anyways. Last 3 questions. 13th questions on your screen. Now, what does self-attention in transformer models allow? We've already given you a hint in the first 5 questions. Focus on the most relevant words in a sentence, generate random predictions, ignore unimportant data, or repeat previously generated tokens. Okay, let's look at this. 82%. Perfect. Perfect. The right answer is also focusing on the most relevant words in a sentence. Okay. The last 2 questions for the day. 14th question on your screen now. Which of the following task is not typically performed by a large language model? Out of the 4 options given: sentiment, language, image, text. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's look at this. Can we get 90% majority here? Yeah, okay. Image classification, language translation, sentiment analysis, and text generation. 52% of you. Can you be ever wrong? Maybe not. Not this time. LLM can do text generation. Definitely, it can do translation because it is part of text, and also can understand analysis if you give it in a textual format. Okay, it cannot do image classification at this point. We'll go to that in next session as we spoke about it, but this is the right answer. The last question, be on your screens now. The last question for the day, to give it the fastest shot that you can. The final question.
Screen is not visible.
1 second, 1 second. I'll just move it and then it'll become visible. Don't worry. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. The final question for the day is, who is often referred to as the father of deep learning? Yan LeCun, Andrew Ng, Geoffrey Hinton, or Elon Musk? The sweetest and simplest and like a giveaway to people. In 3, 2, 1. all the 15 questions we conclude, the right answer. Oh, wow, there's a good split. Let's look at the 15th right answer and then we'll move to the leaderboard. How does that look like? The right answer is Jeffrey Hinton. You can look that up, what exactly we did. We also spoke about it while we were starting the session as well. Jeffrey Hinton was the first one to understand and take this concept of deep learning, starting from computer engineering background. And there's a 1 hour podcast that you can watch on YouTube as well. He gives a pretty decent insights. Now, what I would want you to do is the quiz is off. Okay, live quiz, 15 questions are done. You will see the leaderboard coming up. The chat is on to everyone. The first 3 names, congratulate them in the chat, and then we'll go to the next section. Okay. So here's how the leaderboard looks like after all the 15 questions. Shobit turns out to be the second person. He was trending in. Swaroop, congratulations. Shobit and Arindam. Arindam also asked a lot of interesting questions, and that's why you should be active in the chat so that you grasp the most understanding from what is being taught. Can we congratulate all the 3 people? We are at 1:42, right on time to get to the perfect. That is it for the first quiz. We'll come to the next quiz in the next session. We'll come to now building a lot of interesting apps. And how can we do that? How about Funny? Tell us about it.
Amazing. Thank you, Om. Thank you for covering the quiz part of it. And congratulations to everybody, not just the winners, because we have been sitting through these quizzes, and I think this bunch has gotten most of the answers right. So and with that, we also get done with one of the most heaviest sessions of this mastermind, and all of you have made through it, irrespective of how much of it you have absorbed. And now it's time to get into the building zone. What we are going to be doing is, before we get into the building zone, I just want to give you a quick overview of what the second half of today is also going to look like and what we will be learning. And right after that, we will get into building our app. I'm just going to be sharing my screen. Give me a second. Awesome. So what we have learned so far has all been about text generation, but the concept of tokenization that you saw here in text generation, wherein the model kind of breaks the text to be able to understand it, that is very relevant when we talk about image generation and video generation as well. So the second half of today is completely about image models, and we segregated day one intentionally because we wanted to cover both text models and image models. And the science that kind of powers image models is called as the science of diffusion, which is what we will get into after the lunch break. So the second half of today is broken into 2 different sessions. So you're going to be meeting 2 mentors. The first session is going to be a 1 hour session that will be approximately from 3 p.m. IST to 4 p.m. IST, where we are going to go deep into the science of diffusion itself. And from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is when we have the second session that would be happening on image and video generation using AI. Right? So that is what we are going to be doing. Now, I also want to show you all a very quick video, and I want to hear your thoughts on what you think about this video. Just opening it up, and I want the chat to be closed at this point of time so that all of you watch this video. And whoever is on camera can give me a quick thumbs up if you are able to hear the audio as well perfectly once I start playing it.
People are posting about the ranks on the quiz. Very interesting. Guys, 600 people. If you're 9th rank, 15th rank, all of best one. Yes, Vani, you were sharing the audio.
Awesome. Yes.
The audio is not
Hear
clear.
it?
No,
Audio is
no.
not playing, is it? Okay.
And I can see your WhatsApp web screen. Do you want me to scan it?
What? Okay. 1 second. Uh,
Yeah,
can you see it now?
we can. If, do you want to reshare and select the shared sound option?
I did that. I did that. So I'm gonna play it once again. Let me know if you can hear it. Sound is not coming?
Send the link to me.
Okay. Give me just a second. I'm sending it to you.
Folks, what Funny is trying to show is a video that is completely generated with.
Don't reveal it. No. I wanted people to watch the video first.
ठीक
I
है
want
भाई.
people to watch the video first.
Let me play it.
Yeah, yeah.
Second, sharing my screen once again. Yeah. Got it. Okay, I'll play for 2 seconds and check. Okay, I'll put it to full screen.
Oh yeah, you'll have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Audible?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. I'll play from scratch. Yes.
Guys,
Uh,
what do you think about this? What do you think about this on the chat? Like Om already revealed it, this entire video was created by using AI tools, different AI tools, right? And it's not very simple. It's not like, I just type one line of text and I get the entire video. There is an entire workflow to it. Now, let me tell you this. In the second half of today, while we are trying to learn image and video models, we are going to learn this exact workflow. And the creator of this video is the mentor who is going to come and teach. So he is going to take you all through the exact workflow that he followed to be able to create this video. And by the end of today, you will also be able to create a video like this one. So that is what we have coming up in the second half of today. But now I think it's time for us to go ahead and build our first app without writing a line of code. What I am going to be doing is, are you all excited and ready to build your first app in breakout rooms? Drop in a yes. Amazing.
yes. Let's do that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of
Okay.
learning thing
All
can.
right. So I'm going to be turning off the chat box right now. There is going to be a workbook link that we will. Someone says funny, looks like something. Govind. Okay, I don't know who that is, but okay. I'm going to be turning off the chat box. What we will do is there is a workbook that we are going to be sharing. But before you open that workbook, I want all of you to watch what I am doing on my screen. I'm going to take you through the steps that you need to follow so that you are able to build this app yourself inside of the breakout rooms, right? So let me share my screen now and take you all through what this workbook is all about and how do you go ahead and build this app as well that we are talking about. Um, Sharing my screen. Okay. I hope you are able to see my screen. Okay. Awesome. So you will be receiving a workbook like this one. It'll basically, and every session has its own workbook. This is workbook number 1 that you are going to get on the chat box right now. Now, inside this workbook, there are 2 tasks that you will find. You will find task 1.1, and as you scroll down, you will find task 1.2 as well, right? And what we are going to be focusing on inside of the breakout rooms right now is task 1.2. Task 1.1 is what you will all have to do as your homework after the complete day ends today, wherein you will be able to make your own prompt library. But for I mean, because we have time constraints here, we will not be attempting both of them right now. We will jump into task 1.1, and we have written down very clear instructions step by step as to what do you have to do at every step to be able to complete the task that is given to you. So you will be able to do this on your own. But let us look at task 1.2 right now and what it is all about. So this task is about building and deploying your own app using Claude.ai. Claude.ai is the tool that we will be using for this, and I will shortly show you all what that tool looks like. Right, and it is a very common tool, just like how ChatGPT is, and a lot of you might have already used Claude.ai as well, right? And in this activity, you will essentially create an app, right? And we have given some suggestions in terms of what are the kind of apps that you can build. You can build something like a travel planner app or a to-do list app or a TikTok-toe game app or a quiz app or whatever it is that you want to build, right? And I'm going to be showing you the process. In case you have no idea currently, we have given you ideas, but inside of your breakout rooms, we want all of you to be able to discuss, come up with one idea and build that app together. Now, we have also given down these steps explaining what you have to do. And this is what I would like to show to all of you as well. But after I do the demo of it, in case you're still confused, you can just open this workbook and you have all of these instructions with you. Now, those of you who are on camera, am I clear so far? Give me a thumbs up because the chat is closed. Awesome. Awesome. Now what I'll do is I'll show you what the Claude interface looks like. So all that you will have to do is go to claude.ai. And once you do that and once you log in, you will be able to see a screen like this one. Once you log in, right? And what I'm showing you right now is a free account. As you can see, this is a completely free account and I'm not even using the paid account. So you don't have to pay for Claude. All that you have to do is go ahead and sign up if you have not already signed up. And once you sign up, you will land on this home page. Now, the first thing that you have to do when you come onto this page, it's going to say something like good afternoon and whatever your name is that you're going to give to Claude, right? Here, my name is Funny, so it says good afternoon, Funny. That is the only difference in between what my screen shows and what your screen is going to show. Now, once you land on this page, before you do anything, you need to hover your cursor to the left side, and that is where you will get this menu bar. This menu bar that you see will pop up when you hover the cursor to the left side. Now here, what you will have to do is you will find your email ID at the bottom most part of the menu bar. You click on that and 1 second. Yeah, you click on this email ID and that will give you this pop-up. And in this pop-up, you will have multiple options like settings, appearance, feature preview, learn more, and all of that, right? What you should do as the first step is click on feature preview, right? Once you click on that, it will open up this pop-up that you can see, wherein it will have two options, analysis tool and latex rendering. You have to click on latex rendering, and usually if you have never turned this option on, it will always by default be turned off. Claude by default, Claude gives it as a turned off option. So you need to go to feature preview, you need to go to latex rendering, and you need to turn it on, right? And once you turn it on, you're good to get started with building your app. Am I clear so far? Quick thumbs up. You basically hover to the left of your screen, click on this, go to feature preview, go to latex rendering and turn this option on. And once you do that, you come back to this page and here is where you can enter your prompt on Claude. And we are going to keep it very simple. You can, of course, come up with complex use cases later on by giving extra, context in terms of what your app should look like, what features should it have, and all of that. But here, I'm going to keep it very simple. All that I'm going to tell Claude is, hey, build an app that helps me list down my daily to-dos. I want to be able to tick mark them as complete. Just a second. Tick mark them as completed once I finish my tasks. And I would like to have a green and white colored interface. That is all that I'm telling Claude right now. I'm telling Claude that I want an app that will help me take my to-do list and also help me mark it as complete. And I'm going to hit this button and let's see what Claude does now. It will start writing the code and you will be able to see the code on the right side of your screen. And you don't have to worry about this code at all. Let us see what happens right after it finishes its task. And it's going to take around 2 to 3 minutes. There you go. My app is ready. And what I will be able to do inside of this task, inside of this app right now is I can go ahead and add my to-do. Let us say I add something like send emails to the attendees of the mastermind, right? And I click on add. See, it works. And once I'm done with it, I can just mark it as complete. Now, on the chat, did you all understand this process and do you think this is cool? Would you all like to try this out yourself? Drop in a yes on the chat box. if
Funny
you find this
conversation.
cool and if you would want to try it out yourself, amazing. Now, here's